blah, blah. Renars podcast.
Everything is rolling. And who else is rolling? Oh shit, someone is rolling, just rolled up in my studio here.
Keep on rolling, baby.
Yeah, David Bissell in the house. What's up, man?
What's up?
So finally I got you on the podcast. It's been a while where I tried to hunt this motherfucker down. It's always, I'm just too busy. But actually you never cared enough.
Got to make time for these things.
Yeah, but now you're finally, okay, I have nothing else to do tonight. I'm going to come over. So how have you been? How's life? How is I try not to say where we are so we can keep the secret, but I recently heard that you went to Bali. How was that?
yeah, life's good. Life's good, man. Bali's good. Bali's been a bit of a whirlwind. I'm actually leaving tomorrow, and I realize I've only been here 9 weeks.
And it feels like more?
It feels like forever.
Really?
It feels like forever. It feels like it's all like merged into one. Yeah,
but is it because you've done a lot of things? That's why.
Exactly, yeah. Always doing stuff, training stuff, work stuff, a lot more social. Bali has a way of like keeping you busy.
I think the social aspect is the craziest one. Yeah. Like living in the UK, I mean now I live outside the city, but even when I lived in London, so I don't like doing clubs and all that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't go like, clubbing, whatever, but like house parties, they would not be as, here's like four times a week there's a villa party. Someone has a villa party, some kind of gathering, someone we're gonna have a birthday / Christmas / Hanukkah. It's just anything merged together.
It's always going down. Yeah.
And then you meet so many interesting people. So who is the most interesting person you met in Bali so far?
Whoa, jeez. Okay. Well, I have met someone who's been on your podcast actually.
Okay.
Ian McLeod.
Yeah.
I think I've said that right.
McLeod.
Is it McLeod?
Yeah, I think it's definitely not McLeod.
McLeod.
But that sounds very, very British. You're probably going to like McLeod. Mr. McLeod, please come to the cashier.
Yeah. And well, I didn't know that much about him until I listened to your podcast. And he's actually a pretty interesting guy. Met some interesting women.
I like how you just moved away from Ian McLeod.
Ian McLeod, really interesting guy. Lots about
And then I met a lot of chicks.
A lot of crazy chicks.
We'll say about Ian, what's so interesting about him?
So Ian played high school football, right, in the States, which is a pretty big deal.
It's huge.
Out there, yeah. He's travelled about, lived all over Asia.
Come a little bit closer to the microphone. Don't lean away. Just like feel comfy. Just feel comfy. Just like do a fist. Yeah. A fist distance, not too close.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, he's done a lot. And knows a lot about his training. And so I've just been getting coaching there. Part of the reason to come to Bali for me was to improve my mobility, flexibility, all that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, he's your man then. In that case, he's the Guru Saj. Yeah, I mean like the first time I met him, like he comes across like a very, very, I have to be very careful what the words I'm using. Like just like doing his thing. It's like he would not laugh much. He's just like in his world and very serious. Okay, very serious. Like Ian, he's like, so I'm gonna show you how to do that. And I'm trying to crack a joke. He's so let's go back to business. But yeah, he's very, very just knowledgeable about this stuff. It's insane. Like in podcast, I remember like I struggled. I needed to interrupt him because he would talk, and he just talks good stuff, but still, it'll like, okay, I need to move on.
yeah, it just keeps going. One of those kind of passion-driven guys.
Yeah, 100%. And just
blah, blah, blah.
And he's done so much, and he's studied so much, and the knowledge is insane. So, and he's the one great thing is like some people like to keep that knowledge to them, but Ian is more than happy to share with it, which is awesome. Okay, let's go to chicks then. It's like I don't want to talk about Ian anymore.
Chicks. It's funny talking about chicks because you and I have a bit of experience with chicks.
Oh no!
There's one story that is a story I'll never forget. If anybody asks me, "Hey, you had any crazy nights or anything?" This is my always one story I'll go to. Should I give it to the guests?
Yeah, of course you can give it to the guests. But the thing is that for sure, I didn't get much action from that night. You had crazy action.
See, I thought that you got the action. Anyway, you were the most ultimate wingman that night. Everybody knows you were a dancer, right?
Well, yeah. pretty much. If they watched, seen any of the other podcasts and they follow me at least a little bit, yeah.
Okay. Well, Ray was a dancer for the Dream Boys, and I was a host for the Dream Boys. Wannabe dancer, didn't quite make it. It's a sore spot. Maybe we'll talk about it.
Oh, it's fine. And also, he still calls me Ray because like it used to be kind of my stage name, whatever. He's still with Ray, and I'm totally fine. David, you can call me Ray.
Who is Renars? I remember when like I was trying to search for your number or something, and I'm searching Ray like on Instagram, and I'm like, where the fuck is this guy? I remember I couldn't find you. I ended up giving up. Eventually I see this Renars and I'm like, fuck. Anyway, Ray Teaser as his stage name goes.
Oh no, you did not say that. Yeah, that's not much. Some videos on YouTube there, but yeah.
I'll try and keep this story
short. Yeah, that's
anyway,
fine. No, go for it. That's my podcast, dude. You go full on.
Okay. So the Dream Boys would normally be hosted in like a kind of nightclub. But for some reason, the nightclub was shut, and so they moved us into Platinum Lace. And it was earlier on in the night before kind of like it became Platinum Lace. Yeah,
and Platinum Lace, for people who don't know, London, central London, is right not far away from Piccadilly Circus, like super central. It's a women's strip club. So, and they moved us as a male performers to a women kind of place.
Yeah, gentleman's club. And anyway, after the show, we kicked around and we met some of the girls and exchanged some numbers. And I went home and went to bed. And I wake up at 11 a.m. I got a ton of missed phone calls, texts and whatnot saying, come round. And I pick up my phone and reply. And then a call comes straight back in. It's 11 a.m. the next day. So these girls have obviously done a ton of cocaine.
Obviously.
Obviously. So they haven't slept. They've done a ton of cocaine. And I thought, fuck, I've got to go. So I live outside central London at this point, okay? So I've got dressed and I've head up to London and I've got the address and I've like, Ray lives near there. Okay, there's two of them. I need, a wingman. So I message Ray and he's straight up and out. We went there. Anyway, they're so coked up. She's like smashing her apartment, smashing vases. There's a little rat dog that's like running around, screaming, shouting. And yeah, it was interesting.
That's the story, right?
That's the story.
But also, I just remember because I came in, I never done coke in my life, and then still I'm in that place where I haven't done it yet. But seeing people who've done coke, it was quite interesting, and like those girls were a very good example of how people look when they do coke. It's like, oh my god, energy's all over the place.
Yeah, that'll do bad things to you.
Yeah. Well, that was an interesting night. But I think one of the most fun nights, what I remember with us, it was definitely Amsterdam.
That was the worst night in the world.
David decided that he needs to wear his dress shoes and his suit for whatever reason. And it was a sick night. I really enjoyed it. I think the best thing, because like we got really tired from smoking some weed. Oh, and who did not turn his phone off? That is me. And so we were really tired, falling asleep. And one of our Dream Boy guys, Peter's like, I have a brilliant idea. What? Let's go to the cinema. And then we went to cinema and slept like 2 hours in the front row watching.
I don't even remember the cinema.
The Hotel of Budapest, I think that's the film.
Is that what it
I just remember the beginning and the end because that's where they were waking us up. Mr. Wake up. The movie's gone. So yeah, that was that. But okay, so let's go back to how we met. We met through Dream Boys. I already did 1 year of touring with them and performing with them. And then our manager, David, who's experiencing a lot of fun times nowadays. I don't want to go there. And he got in so excited. He's like, oh my God, I saw this super ripped guy. He's just the best. His physique. And he would look at me like, Renars, his physique's like 20 times better than yours. So yeah. And I was like, okay, whatever.
It's funny because he would rip us and rip everybody like that.
Yeah. But then it was funny how he was actually commenting on you, like he was saying you the best and the best. Nah. But then afterwards, yeah, he was ripping on everyone, all of us. But then, yeah, and that's how you joined us, the Dream Boys. The idea was that you're going to be dancing, but that kind of didn't work much, didn't work very well. But
see, I would have made it okay. I got through 4 routines in the rehearsals, and although it wasn't that smooth and sloppy, I could learn the routine and execute it. But then I kept missing rehearsals in aid of like some other business stuff I was doing, and so Dave cut me from the from the squad.
And no, I felt it was kind of shitty that you didn't made it. Like I was very excited. It was we could see there was good energy, good laugh, and
it was good times because I'd still come and do the promo days and stuff with you guys. So it's almost like I was in the main group, but without actually doing the touring.
Without actually being a main guy.
Without actually being a main guy. Yeah. I was in the calendar and whatnot, so I kind of had the boys experience. So that's a really good chapter in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. No, I totally agree. Like for me as well, Dream Boys was 2 years touring all across UK, and it was a lot of fun. 100%. Yay, the Dream Boy days. So far, who I had on the podcast actually, who was involved with Dream Boys, it was Roger Snipes, was on podcast, Rowan, and that's about it. I had Diego Secchi, but he was like involved with the go-go dancing in those days, but also like, you know Diego, obviously.
Yeah.
He's
he does the WBFF as well.
He's a sick dude, such a lovely guy as well. Very smart, very knowledgeable. So it was cool that he came to my podcast. He came to my shed in Bracknell, and he's like, "What the fuck am I doing here? What is this shit?" And I was like, "Shut up and let's talk."
You've leveled up now, mate.
I know. No. Like, I mean, this is the whole equipment what I brought from UK. Yeah, so all these cameras, everything is the same. But to be honest, like I really like my setup in the shed. So this kind of, I don't know, still getting used to it. This is the first podcast with this equipment, this setup. Let's get into how you start all the fitness journey. I think that's probably that's what you're the most known for. You know, I mean, very business minded, but also like the fitness. That's how it's all started. Let's go from that with that.
Yeah. So I actually have a degree in aerospace engineering.
No shit.
Yeah.
That's when I'm doing a podcast, because I found out shit I've never heard of. Are you serious?
Yeah, aerospace, MEng.
Aerospace engineering.
Aerospace engineering, masters. So at school, I was always good at like maths and physics, and I got A and A levels in those. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to go to university, and they naturally come together to give engineering. So I actually did engineering. But the thing is, the whole time I was at uni, I just kind of like did what I had to do to get the grades.
Right.
And I spent my time partying, playing on the American football team, and I even set up my own fitness brand while at university, which then became to be my business for a few years thereafter. And the real turning point for me actually was...
Dream Boys.
Yeah. Well, no, it was the same way I met Dave, the owner-manager of the Dream Boys.
Really?
So I did that competition called Fit Factor. I did it the weekend before my final exams, and I won that. And that actually included an all-expenses-paid trip to Vegas with spending money. And the owner of that competition, who also owned the exhibition, then offered to invest in my fitness brand.
Oh, wow.
Funny story about that guy, actually, the owner of that brand, that exhibition.
He asked you out?
Yeah. So it came out down the line that this guy, okay, he's got a wife and kid. You know Martin Ford?
Yeah, of course. No.
Yeah, so Martin Ford at Body Power India, okay, walked in on him dogging an Indian boy in the hotel room. Oh. Mate, I've met his wife, you know, and stuff.
Is this information
offices.
out there?
This information's out there within the industry.
Oh, okay.
But fuck it, it's kind of pretty widespread now.
Oh, wow. And Martin Ford, it's so funny. It's like it just finally clicked in. I was working on like 3 or 4 different films with Martin Ford. And I was always playing fighter and whatever. And there's a scene which I actually going to put it right here. Everyone can see it. We had this really cool rehearsal where he was beating up my ass. And then I actually beat him up. And he's like 4 heads taller.
You beat him up?
Yeah.
He beat up like The Rock in Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did he?
Yeah.
No.
Fast and Furious, I'm lose track of the numbers, but there's the one where they're fighting on the top of the truck, right?
Oh, okay. And he was fighting Rock. Nice.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I just worked with Rock, you know. I just had a little chat with him. I was like, oh my God, I'm such a big fan. And he was like, thank you, brother.
Really?
Yeah. And it was so funny. That was in Hobbs and Shaw. I was like right next to him, playing the dead guy pretty much for 3 days. Yeah, it's like this is one of those the worst ones. Like just like in Bond, on the Bond No Time to Die, I got this award and everything. All I did, run in, get shot, and then for 3 weeks I'm dying. I'm lying on the floor dead. And then I'm like a stunt coordinator. I was like, so what? You don't want me to do anything? No. You have to be. It's a continuity. And I'm like, but you can just see my shoe. Why can't you just put someone else? Oh, you want to lose all that money? It's like, oh, no, okay, I'm staying. So with Dwayne I was like these 3 days getting shot, 3 days lying and whatever. And then at the end, I finally like, okay, I need to talk to him. And he was just about to leave, and I was just like chasing him. He was like, oh, Mr. Johnson, I'm just you're the best. Because I had the whole script of what I'm gonna be saying to him. I was you're gonna say, listen, to stop what you do, it's inspiring people, not me, really.
I inspire you.
Do you know who I am? But
come on my podcast.
Yeah, exactly. But he was really nice. He just stopped by and he's like, "Oh, thanks, man," and all that. But I'm like, he probably thought I was one of the extras or whatever. I don't think he even clocked that I was one of the stunt guys. But yeah, going back to Martin Ford, I worked with him on like 3 or 4 different projects. Yeah, he's cool. He's all right.
It's sick what you do. I love the lifestyle that you've got. You get to go and do like these fun shoots and stuff, and then come to Bali where you know, channel your energy and your activities and things. I remember looking at a few of your posts when you were in Bali a few years back, and those are what made me really want to come and try living in Bali for a bit.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's awesome, man.
Because of you, bro.
Inspirational moment.
Oh, shit.
No, that's later.
Yeah.
Sorry, we talking about you. We're talking about you. So, and we're going back to that competition, and then you had the sponsor who was dogging someone somewhere.
That happened many years thereafter. So at the time, he was just a reputable businessman. But in hindsight, probably a lot of the opportunity came just because he fancied me.
Right, and you were like, oh really?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you give a gay vibe to people?
I don't think so.
Really?
No.
I keep on giving. I don't know why.
Yeah. You don't know why.
I don't, so many times people just come over like, are you straight? You gay? Or like, how much you trying to be straight? Especially when I used to work in gay clubs as a go-go dancer, it was difficult to convince them. No, I'm actually straight. Who's trying to make some money?
Well, I've heard your story about how you treat girls, so that was why you pretend to be gay.
Oh my God, how I treat girls! That sounds so bad. How I treat girls.
That story in your comedy show cracked me up. You know, yeah, that was one of my favorite ones.
Hey,
yeah. Where at the end bit where you were like, I don't know what it is. I've just got this.
It's never happened with me before.
Wait, did you actually ever do that? Or is that just the comedy?
That one was comedy. That was comedy, but the previous bit where in the gay clubs, women come in and they just assume that, especially dancers, they would assume that.
I wish you had actually done that.
They're gay.
Real life. That would have made my day.
That just never happened with me before. But I think I was close in the sense of like, oh, I'm just gonna cuddle. We're just gonna cuddle. Nothing's gonna happen. We're just gonna cuddle. Ooh, what's that? Oh, it's my flashlight.
Yeah.
Just so happy to see you. But yeah, the big one is definitely when straight women come to gay club thinking it's the safety haven for them, and like there's no straight guys, whatever. And then the most flamboyant go-go dancer goes, grabs a beer, whatever, and chats with a girl, and she's just like, oh, there's no way this guy's straight. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, actually I'm straight. But you're the most gay out of everyone. That's my magic power, Avengers. Okay, so in that competition which you won, how old you were? Like 19, 20 years old?
21, because it was my 4th year of uni, weekend before the exams. Mm-hmm. And yeah, winning that just kind of said to me, okay, you need to pursue this industry, right? Like I had the trip to Vegas in September coming up. So yeah, I kept going with my brand, and at that point I started working part-time, right, for Dream Boys, because Dave was the judge, and so that's when we met, when I was 21, which is 10 years ago.
Dude, insane.
Insane. Yeah. And then that was a good kind of like, that was my mid-20s really, building that company and continuing to compete in more fitness competitions. And yeah, I had a good time building that brand up.
How did it start with the brand? You kind of skipped that. Like, what was the brand? How did you start that?
So the brand was Mass, and I had a pretty good reputation as being known as, you know, the Mass guy. So it was university community for gym and fitness. And it was like a club at your university, like the rugby team or the football team, but the club for gym and fitness. And at one point I grew it up to about 30 universities. And it was like a franchise, but not in the legal sense. Like, people weren't signing, you know, franchise documents, but it worked just the same. You got the how-to pack on running your own community at your university, and we oversaw the headline stuff like the clothing brands, the sponsorships and stuff like that. And I ran events. I ran the Mr. University competition for a number of years, and that built up to having regionals as well as a final. And it was all really fun. It was a bit of a social business because I just kind of enjoyed doing it. But there's lots of people now who, you know, were part of our community, and if it wasn't for what we were doing, they wouldn't have gone on to the big careers in fitness they're now in. Like, there's lots of IFBB pros, people who have decided to pursue fitness as opposed to, say, what they were studying, which they might not have been as passionate about. So, yeah, that was a really good part of my my 20s.
And then you kind of, that example of that you were not very passionate about what you were studying from the air, what is that?
Aerospace engineering.
Aerospace engineering. You wanted to be a cosmonaut, basically. You wanted to go to space.
I mean, sometimes I got into it, and sometimes I got into the numbers and whatnot, and I naturally got kind of like a mathematical brain.
Right.
But the thing is, like, there was me, okay, in my engineering course with, like, arms busting out of my T-shirt, looking like I'm fresh off of Jersey Shore, and then I'm next to
all the nerds,
weedy guy in a lab coat, you know. And the thing is, engineering, as I learned more about it, that's kind of like, engineers are the guy behind the guy, right? So they do a lot of the back end work, and it's the people that own the engineering companies that,
right.
A lot of my course mates who are now, say, chartered engineers, you know, as a personal trainer, I'm still earning like 3 times more than them.
Really?
Right. Like, yeah. So,
but what if you do your own business? What if you come up with your own concept? That's where you can make millions.
This is true. This is true. So, yeah. But even then, I just wasn't that interested.
We have that one example, Elon Musk. Ever heard of that guy?
Yeah.
He's doing pretty well.
Yeah, he's doing all right. Eh? Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting one. It's like, it's the question about, is it better, there's this saying, is it better to have this thing in my hand, or there's this massive bird in a tree kind of thing? Like, what was that saying about, like, whether you get this and it's a instinct kind of reward, and it's already there and it's kind of easier to achieve, or you being in the lab and doing that all boring stuff and doing that, but you have that vision of you're gonna do something big in the future. Yeah,
see, the thing is, you're right, there's definitely a bigger scalability and future in, say, engineering if you did it properly, but my passion just wasn't there. You know, I liked doing the fitness stuff, I loved doing the Dream Boys stuff. I'm more of a showman, you know, like a performer, and yeah, that kind of like back end design engineering didn't really have that much passion.
No, man, I get it. Listen to who you're talking to. I always wanted to be in the center of attention. Like, I went to study business just because I had no idea what else I could study. Like, I wanted to study journalism, but my writing was so shit, and my mom said, like, go study something serious, which is business. And I don't know. I think it was pretty cool to study business because I met a lot of like-minded people who were also kind of lost. They didn't know what the fuck they want to do. And then Mass, what did they actually did? Was it supplements? Was it like a training equipment? What was it?
Oh god, so it was kind of like, it was a membership base for mostly, right? So it was captive audience. That's what its main USP was. And so we had our own clothing line, which we did quite well from. Had our events as well as the Mr. University. We did some powerlifting ones, and then kind of sports nutrition companies that wanted to reach that market might do the sponsorships as well. But I looked at everything across the years, like lots of different ways of doing the clothing, as well as ways of selling our own sports nutrition and things, exploring ideas. But where that business reached kind of like an end point, it was that you're working with the universities, so there was a bit of like bureaucracy and politics involved.
Yeah, especially when you work with the universities. Yeah, exactly.
So it reached its limit of scalability, and right when I had planned to rebrand and relaunch it within a kind of app format, COVID hit.
Shit.
So students weren't actually even going into the university anymore. So the whole thing got put on pause, and then eventually it just never happened, and I got carried away with other things. But I think that's for the best anyway, because there's always the student market, which is always going to be limited in its spending power, right? But yeah,
cool.
From a social element, enjoyed it.
Yeah, and then from competitions, so what is your greatest achievement competing? And you competing not in the bodybuilding, but you're competing in the fitness model. I always I even competed
confused.
once in with Rowan, and Diego was there as well. Do you remember that one? I competed.
You competed.
I did, and Roger Snipes was the judge, and I was just I was totally mocking all the fucking thing. I just went out like.
Was that like Miami Pro or something?
Yeah, something like FF something MFF. I don't remember anymore. But so yeah, I think that was like a fitness model category. I don't know what is the stuff you would be.
So I do fitness model. I do it in the WBFF, which is probably the biggest federation for fitness modeling. It's worldwide. They've got a world championship and stuff. And yeah, I first did that in 2016, won my pro card, and then I've competed at the Worlds. I recently competed at the Australia show as well. Yeah.
When is it recently?
It was on the 29th of October.
Oh,
so
right.
I was in Australia just before I came to Bali.
How was that?
Pretty sick, man. I love Australia. It's better weather than here.
Yeah, doy.
So cloudy
It's
here.
just like the prices are a little bit higher than here.
Well, this is the thing. That's why I didn't, because this is my first experience living abroad. So I chose Bali as like ease of access, right? You get properties on a monthly and stuff, whereas Australia's expensive.
Yeah. Well, talking about that, but even Bali now is quite expensive, especially when we're talking about living situation. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah,
we're just earlier saying like Dave needs to come move in this room now because he has no place to stay.
This is my bed. This is my bed now.
But yeah, it's like I just so miss COVID days. It was so much better. Jeez Christ. I was paying 4 mil, which is 4 million Indonesia rupiah. That's like what, 200 pounds or something. That was a month in a really decent guest house, like really nice one with a massive swimming pool and stuff. So and then competitions, and then are you continuing? Are you gonna compete? You're gonna continue competing? Is that the idea?
Competing's an odd one for me because a lot of people class themselves as a competitor, right? And they'll have an on-season and an off-season, and they'll do kind of like the show runs where they maybe do 3 or 4 shows in a on season, and they compete every year. Whereas I'm more of a spur of the moment, competitor.
Really?
Like, yeah. Like the show I just did, I decided to do it 5 weeks out, and I prepped in 5 weeks.
How did you do it?
Pretty hard discipline. I think getting in shape is actually pretty easy, right?
No, how did you do as in competition? Did you do well?
How did I do? No, so I didn't place. But that's politics, mate. That's politics, okay? So...
Hey! What else we have here?
Oh, my God.
That's politics. It's all politics.
It's all politics. No, in hindsight, I needed a bit more than 5 weeks, and I needed to practice my posing a bit more. The motivation for shows for me as well, it isn't necessarily always winning. They are a deadline to force you to get into the best possible shape.
So you like that challenge?
I like that challenge. I like the adrenaline of going up against people in something.
But you go on the stage and tense.
Yeah, it's like a flex down, man.
That's one of the things when I someone who used to compete in like martial arts and doing so, that's why I made fun of like when I was competing one. I don't get it. Obviously I'm just not into it enough to understand like it's a hard work and everything, but For me, I always like those films to watch when someone has these massive muscles and the guy who has more skill just fucks them up. I love that one.
Yeah. Now, I must admit, I'm getting a bit bored of like the posing part of it. I'm kind of over the whole, hey, look at me, I'm ripped type thing. But when you know you've got the show coming up, it does really amplify all of your workouts mentally. Because when you're training, you're thinking, fuck, these 3 reps of extra burn that are so painful is the difference between first and second. And it is. And so you have the best workouts of your life. You're a lot stricter. It becomes so much easier to say no to things, just because you know you're putting your name on that stage, right? And that's the kind of like competitive drive that I like about it.
Yeah.
Although the person's not training next to you, they might as well be training next to you, right? Because that's how it feels when you're training.
But it's, how do you think it's now comparatively when, again, I just followed and understood, or I thought that was crazy times when Arnie was competing, obviously. Like from that's been like, what now, 40 years ago when Arnie was performing. And so since then, it's always like up and down and up and down. What is the place where is the fitness modeling and these competitions are now, comparing like in the last 10 years? Because you've been doing this for 10 years. Obviously, during the COVID time, it went to nowhere, but in between.
Yeah, so, I mean, bodybuilding did just continue to get bigger and bigger after Arnie's day. And as it got bigger and bigger, there became a time when people who just gymmed and wanted to look quite good, maybe wanted to compete, but not get as big and huge as like the big guys, were looking for something. And that's when fitness model competitions came in. So I would say fitness model competitions actually peaked about 10 years ago. Right. In terms of their popularity.
And what something must happen with the fitness modeling, because that thing didn't really exist. So it was the Arnie's bodybuilders, proper bodybuilders. Where did the fitness models came from? Did something happen?
Yeah, so I don't know, to be honest, because I was only really just getting into the industry at the time that was becoming a thing. So I didn't really see the journey. Right?
I'm wondering, because it might be some kind of a movies were popular, like let's say like when Arnie was doing his Terminators and stuff, and at the same time Bruce Lee, who was ripped as fuck as well. So maybe there's some people start looking up to like being like Bruce Lee, or I don't know, because these kind of certain shifts and the reasons why do we play with nunchucks in our background when we're kids, because something influences us and inspires us, like these martial art films. And with Arnie, obviously, like as soon as Arnie started doing, everyone wanted to do tensing and muscles and all that shit. Do you know who was your idol?
Arnie would have been one of them, right? Like everybody's watching Terminator and Commando as a kid.
Ta-da. I'll be back.
Yeah, he was definitely one of my gym motivations, and I used to watch Dragon Ball Z as well.
You watch who? Sorry,
Dragon Ball Z.
Ball Z,
the cartoon.
Oh, what was that?
So that was like, you didn't watch that, where there's like the sands.
I grew up in post-Soviet Union country, man. I didn't get a lot of stuff.
No TV.
No TV, no sugar, no honey. No, I just grew up with very different cartoons and films. So that's why very often when someone says, "Oh, come on," like when we were kids, we're watching that. No, when I was a kid, I watched totally different stuff. Like it's like we have a very similar like Tom and Jerry, but it was a wolf and a rabbit.
Okay.
It's the same concept, it's just a different name. But so what is that cartoon?
It was just basically a Japanese cartoon of martial arts, actually.
Oh, okay.
But they were all like pretty jacked.
Oh, okay.
And they got kind of like superpowers almost.
Right.
And like when someone would punch someone else, the guy would maybe fly like 5 kilometers through rocks.
Well, that's like the Street Fighter concept when they do what do they say? This guy when he does woo-choo-doo, like what was that? Who can, right?
Yeah. So it's just like that.
Woo-choo-doo, where did that came from?
I always remember playing Street Fighter, and there was a bit where you could like button tap, and it would go Hawoogie.
Button tap.
Yeah, you'd like.
But then, if those kind of things inspired you, why did you not go into more like martial arty stuff? So you went football. Like there was the American football you played?
Played American
Which
football.
is also quite
at
unusual
university.
for UK. So then before university, what kind of sports did you done before then in the high school?
So in my teens, I was into the extreme sports. So I did skateboarding and inline skating.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
Inline
yeah.
skating is not extreme sport. People just saying. No, inline skating depends what kind of you do tricking and all that stuff. Actually, I did a couple of days ago. Did you see my post?
I saw you doing some rollerblading.
Yeah,
like on
yeah.
the ramps,
So,
yeah.
but those were like rollerblades, which are like inline skates for like doing tricks. But I just can't do it much. But my mate was jumping around and doing stuff.
So I saw your ones. They were like inline skates, but they weren't aggressive inline skates.
No, they were not. They were kind of in between.
Yeah. So,
But I know what you mean. So also you used to do those. That's pretty crazy.
used to do those, and I got really into those. I got to the point where on my inline skates, I could do backflips up ramps and stuff.
Wow.
Like I had a trampoline. I was really into that. And then somewhere around kind of like 15, gym just took over. But I was never naturally that athletic. My kind of body's default build is skinny fat. I've got quite a small skeleton. I was always quite weak growing up at school. Like I couldn't play rugby or anything like that. But I started gymming at 15, and by the time it got time to go to university, I was pretty big. And the only real sport you can start at university without having played prior is American football, because everyone else is in the same boat. You know, you can't start rugby because you need people who've had years of skill from when they were 5, right?
Yeah.
But 90% of the people that
That's
start...
interesting. Why is that in UK like that? Why no one plays in the high schools American football?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it'll come in, but it's really popular at universities now in the UK. Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, do you remember which was like the section, not but place, or what was
Position.
position?
Yes,
Yes, that's the
position.
word I'm looking for.
So I played in a different position every year, just because on the UK university scene, right, no one has been that kind of defined to a position because everyone's starting new. So it's more kind of like you play where you're needed or where you've got the right size or shape for.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The size and shape for it.
Yeah.
Do you remember the party, the Jamie's party? Did you meet the guy, the big black dude?
Yeah, the NFL player. Yeah, he was henchman.
My hand disappeared. I gave him my hand and he was like, "Yo, what's up, man?" And just like it went like that. I was like, wow. One of the biggest people I ever seen, but he's like, you know, big and muscles. And then he was singing karaoke later. You left. He was literally singing.
Really?
He a very good voice as well. He's like, something, money, 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 must be money.
Yeah, he had some good energy, man.
Yeah, he
I was
was-
chatting to him and he was just like, yeah, I'm retired.
He retired. Yeah, he just, he's done 10 years.
Yeah.
That's insane. Wow. But that guy, it doesn't matter how good of a martial artist you are. Like, I don't think you can do much against that guy.
No, sometimes
He just slapped the shit out of you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's about the sports, and it's interesting. It's interesting how we choose these different journeys and stuff. I really enjoyed playing foosball or the soccer in high school, and I liked it. It's very physical, like, you know, the pushing around and very strong, kind of powerful game. But then one thing what I didn't work for me was, if we lose, it's we lost. So like when you lose a game, you always can point fingers at someone. You say, "Oh, we lost because of this guy, because of that guy." And that's why, and that's when karate came to our little town, and I was like, here, if I lose, it's all on me. And it's like, no one, I can't blame anyone else. And then I realized like the individual sport would be better suit for me instead of trying so, you know, to blame someone. Or it's not always that. It's because I played basketball as well and was so shit. And was like, everyone after the game, they were like, "You shit, because of you we lost." And I was like, I didn't want that pressure anymore. So then I went to individual stuff, and obviously that really helped for me for doing stunts, and like, because anything in stunts was pretty much individual instead of the team.
Yeah, I've kind of been the same in terms of individual pursuits, like skateboarding, inline skating, it's yourself.
Yeah.
Gym, it's yourself. American football, of all the team sports, is the most individualized, right?
Right.
Because everybody has their own individual responsibility.
Right.
So although I played American football for 3 years, I probably only knew 30% of the rules, okay? I just knew what I had to do.
What you had to do.
You know, when the snap goes, I knew what I had to do. And that's all you need to know, really. Yeah.
Which kind of makes sense. Well, pretty much in every sport that how it should be. But I guess like volleyball is very different. Volleyball, everyone plays the same positions because we switch around all the time. So everyone goes through it. But yeah, cool, man. So now, what is the outlook into the future?
Into the future.
What do you see the future?
Yeah. So interesting one for discussion, really. That maybe some of the viewers might be in similar journeys or want to think about. And so my 20s, we spoke about my journey with the mass student brand. And that was kind of like my early 20s. Mm-hmm. And then as that started to fade out, I went into personal training. And I was in and out of personal training, and I also did a stint working as marketing manager for a fitness brand, which was quite cool. But yeah, the time in personal training was good because it was kind of steady and it was more kind of obvious in terms of the scalability, and I wasn't managing people. You know, I needed a break from managing people. But there's obviously, when you're selling time, there's a limit, right, on, you know, where you can go. So I kind of got to the point in personal training where I'd reached like a bit of a peak in London in terms of how high I could actually go. I was working with some really big clients and really at the top of the game in the city. But yeah, I realized I'd kind of began to lose all my skills that I developed in my early 20s, you know, in terms of marketing, running a business, planning and projecting. I was fully booked. I hadn't had to do any new marketing for years. And each time I put my prices up, people just kept coming. And so yeah, I didn't have to do any marketing. I stopped sending emails. You know, I had all the systems, website, linked together email system and whatnot, and, you know, fitness business suite, but just stopped using them. And it's a dangerous place to be in, right? Because you lose your adaptability to be dynamic.
Yeah, basically, because you got in this comfort zone. Everyone knows how good I am, and then I'm going to be doing that, and you don't really grow. And so what would be the kind of a rational next step for you to go where? Like to create your own kind of company where you look after other coaches and stuff, and you would, you know, they look after them, or what would be the next natural progression?
Online's the next progression, yeah. Okay. So that's what I've done, and that's why I left the country. I've switched to online. Also just because I'd like to travel a bit and try and live in some other countries. I figured there's so much more culture and living experience to learn. And I don't want to be one of those guys or girls either that kind of gets settled down, you know, at maybe like 35 and is always thinking, oh, what if I lived in that country? What if I explored that, you know? Yeah. I've got a few countries that I'd like to try living in.
100%, totally agree to that. Yeah.
So an online business for now, and then maybe I'd consider brick and mortar or something more location bound from like 35 onwards. But not looking that far ahead, just because part of traveling and living elsewhere is about being a bit more open to new opportunities. And in that time, I'm just going to try and get back some of those skills that I had previously in terms of running a business per se. Because as a trainer, I was just a hustler, you know, meeting demand, doing the hours, bang, bang, bang. Whereas online coaching is more like running a business again, on top of the marketing and stuff. So
tell me, like, can you break it down for someone who doesn't know much about online coaching? How does it work? You create your program and then you sell that program, and then people like, well, I want this program. What does it mean? Are you actually going to go on one with them online, or they just follow whatever directions you show them, whatever training programs you show them? How does it work?
Well, this is the thing, because there's so many different ways you can do it. And a lot of what method you choose would depend on the size of your reach, right? Like you wouldn't do a very high-end bespoke product if you had 1,000 people that wanted to sign up, because you wouldn't be able to like deliver it. loads of ways that you can do it, but the kind of natural progression is you start with a high-end bespoke product. So that's going to include phone calls with your client to talk them through things, check in on them, motivate them. It's going to include custom designing their workouts. And I record custom videos of exercises, program them into an app, and set up the schedule for the individual. Also their kind of calorie requirements. Let's say they, I teach a client about the different types of dieting, right? So you can be flexible using an app. You can set up a meal delivery from a company, or you can do your own meal prep. And then once we figure out what type of nutrition suits their personality and schedule the best, I'll then help them with that. So some people might want a full meal plan written.
How do you, sorry to interrupt you, how do you decide which meal plan works for someone the best? How do you come to that
which
conclusion?
meal plan or which type of nutrition structure?
There you go. Another question. You just ask yourself another question.
Yeah. So in terms of which type of nutrition structure, it depends on the person's personality, really, and their work schedule, and their relationship to food. Some people just view food as fuel, right? You know, it's not a big part of their day. And a lot of people as well might have, because of their work, very low decision-making power or ability.
Okay.
And if you're low on decision power, just because you're making decisions all the time, if you then have to make a decision on your food, probably going to screw it up or make a wrong decision, or it's just going to annoy you and you're going to overthink it. So people who are like that, they need to be told what they're eating and when, right? Because they don't really care whether it tastes like, you know, Gordon Ramsay recipe, and they just want to be getting the results and not stressed out in their day. So a written meal plan, whether they prep that or have a meal prep company do it, it's a different story. But then they can just eat like clockwork and get the results. And in terms of fine-tuning the calories and the macro structure, it's then based on the person's weight, based on their resistance training output, mixed with their cardio output. You know, it isn't a particular meal plan that will get the results, but it's the calorie balance, right? And also
the calorie balance, so say that the calorie balance, as I understand, is like the question is how many calories you burn and how many calories you take in.
Exactly.
So that you have that balance and the ratio. So if you have more calories than actually burn, that's where you get fat.
Exactly, yeah. But then there's different ways to toy with things as well, right? Like,
well, first of all, you can't tell to your client that they're fat. I think I know that.
Yeah,
you have to say they're big.
You can't say it. You know, they know it in their head, but you have to say, "No, look, you're doing all right." But
oh man, you're just a big boned bro. That's just another way to call me fat. Yep.
Yeah, and then other people, right, eating and maybe going out for a meal is a really inherent part of their lifestyle that they just can't break. So they need to be given something where they have some calorie allowance for the day, and they can be flexible based on that, and they leave a calorie amount for then going for dinner. And yeah.
Wow, I like it's like so today you have to be a good boy. You have to eat this and this. Tomorrow we can eat some pasta. But yeah, I mean, it's like for me, it's very difficult to accept that and understand that, because all my life I just say about, you know, just be active, do stuff. And obviously if you eat very shitty food, first of all, for me, I say you eat shitty food, it's a shitty fuel, so you're not going to have good energy. So I would say like, yeah, maybe you can eat a little bit more sometimes, but then you feel sluggish, and it's all just kind of makes sense. You know, it's like I'm not going to go and eat like 3 ice creams before I do my training. You know, it's like I'm going to feel in my body shitty. I'm going to feel this aftertaste. So I go train always on an empty stomach, or if I have like maybe a cup of coffee or something. But, you know, everyone's different. And the craziest for me is like how people just, it's difficult for me to understand how people can't just watch some YouTube videos and figure out their workout stuff and like, oh, maybe I will do this and this, and they need someone for them to point them with a finger what to do.
What I call that is, I always call that the, so there's a product for everyone. So you've either got more time and less money, in which case you watch a YouTube video, and you figure it out yourself. A lot of the people who I train and pay me to train them, if they had the time, they're smart people. They could probably figure it out themselves, right? But they're in a position where they don't have the time, right? And they don't have that mental space. And so they have to pay more in order to get somebody that's going to tell them how to do it. So, and that's why there's different products in online coaching, right? Like you would have, say, the bespoke online product where you're writing it bespoke for the person.
What is the definition for bespoke? You keep using it. I'm like, what the hell does
bespoke.
it mean?
So
it just sounds so fancy.
That's thrown around in the industry quite a lot, actually. Custom. Is the plan custom? And what would define whether or not a plan is custom is, A, it suits the person's schedule. It suits their ability level. It suits in ability level from a, flexibility perspective as well as a strength perspective. And it fits their body's individual predispositions. So that could be they've got a postural issue that's pulling them in a certain way.
Or some kind of injuries or stuff like that.
And naturally, some people have stronger muscles that grow faster than the other. So a plan should kind of account for that, right?
And that's called bespoke. So that's something is done for them.
Yeah, you could just say it's custom. It's fully aligned to their complete individuality. And that's kind of where my speciality lies, right? Writing really bespoke stuff. So I
usually get bespoke shoes because my feet are fucked.
And you're much more comfortable in your bespoke shoes, right? Exactly. Which is
have you seen my bespoke shorts? I just got these.
My bespoke panties.
Exactly. I'm just checking. Like we're about an hour of time chatting. So how about we have a little break, and then we back talking about nutrition stuff, which is really cool. So we are back after our little break. And the thing what we talked about in the previous segment was about nutrition. And nutrition, this is such an interesting subject because to some people, like I think I'm one of them now, where I think actually food is very simple. I feel like there's a lot of things you just stay away from, and I kind of condition my brains, my body that I don't really like them anymore. Like, talking about sweets or talking about fried stuff, talking about like McDonald's or whatever. But I know what's good, and I know it's like I eat a lot of good meat. I try to eat a lot of beef, a lot of chicken, and a lot of eggs, some veggies, and a lot of fruit. And that's where I stick to. And I mean, I'm a huge follower of Joe Rogan's. And if he says that you eat a lot of meat, a little fruit is good, then I follow it. But I do remember also when I was with Dream Boys and stuff, and a lot of guys were taking like all these different vitamins, all these pills. And I remember he was in the first year. I don't think you ever met him. His name is Santino. So I remember the first year he was touring with us. Every morning he would wake up and he would have a handful of all sorts of pills. And like only some of them were like the steroids or whatever, but the rest of them were the vitamins, the good stuff. And I'm like, this is insane. This is a half a glass of these pills you're just like swallowing. And I remember I used to take like the protein to do protein shakes and stuff. Now all I do is just eat like decent food, and I fast in the morning, and I try not to eat before I go to bed. So I try to eat, my window of food intake is from like 2 o'clock till about 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and that's it. And that's what I've been doing for the last probably 5-6 years. In 1 year, I'm 40. I feel good. I can still do all my training, all my exercise, backflips and all that stuff. So, but then you have some people you see who are like, no, I need this nutrition plan. I need to count my calories. I need to do this. And for me, it's honestly sounds like they're like reinventing bicycle. What is going on there? So be honest with me. How much of that is bullshit? What people want to hear about, you need to do this nutrition, that you take this pill, you take this pill. And then it's like me, and I know a lot of people like me who just like eat like kind of simple food, do their fasting, and they're good.
So we'll separate that into two questions. The first one will be supplements, as are supplements necessary, such as the pills and whatnot. Now, I would say there's only a handful of supplements that are kind of definitely have useful benefits if you live in the UK, you are probably deficient on vitamin D.
Yeah,
so you
which
should
is the sun.
maybe
Yeah.
supplement vitamin D. If you're on you're trying to diet and lose weight, you might not be having that much fruit because you might not want that much sugar or carbs in your diet. So you might supplement vitamin C to keep your immune system good. And then creatine monohydrate is extremely proven for helping strength, for weight training as well. But other than those, I don't think anything is completely necessary. And protein, I say to people, don't class protein as a supplement. It's a food. It's just a more easy, convenient way of getting in protein, which you could quite easily get from chicken or beef or eggs or fish, but you're just getting it in powder form. And that could be just because you have no time to eat all day, and then you can just get that in quickly in 2 minutes just to make sure your protein's a bit higher before bed. So all these pills and whatnot aren't necessary. Now, that guy Santino, he was bodybuilding to a really high level, right?
That's true.
Like, he was pretty shredded and big.
Oh, you did meet him?
Yeah, I remember Santino, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Santino, shout out, buddy.
yeah, buddy. I remember this guy.
Italian stallion.
Yeah, mate, he was proper shredded. And so, his sheer amount of muscle tissue and the amount of glycogen and stuff he's constantly going through, I imagine in his little pile there was kind of like, BCAAs, L-carnitines for extra fat burning and stuff, just because, and some of these supplements, like, they might give you an extra 0.5%, which he was probably hunting for, right? But unless you're a competitive bodybuilder, that pill stack of 20 should only really be a pill stack of 1 or 2, in the morning. And in terms of calorie counting and stuff like that, so you're a very unique 40-year-old. let's just put it that way, right? Like, there's not many.
I'm an exception, guys, so I can live like this.
You're an exception. So, you're an example of what people who start their fitness journey are trying to get towards within, say, 5 years, right? Like, a lot of people have got no understanding of calories and macronutrients. So you are probably, without counting them, hitting pretty good, macronutrient and calorie numbers relative to your exercise, right? And you're doing it by feeling, just because you feel your body all day. You're athletic, you know how to take stock of your body, and movement's your job. So you're thinking about movement and you're thinking about fueling that movement, right? But a lot of people, they just don't have the headspace for this stuff, right? And especially if they live in the city, right? There's things pulling at their headspace constantly. They're walking past every single unhealthy food store and things, and they're managing a lot of stress.
And they're giving into their cravings, which is one of the biggest ones, isn't it?
Exactly, right? They're giving into their cravings rather than, say, meditating and getting some zen back and then realizing they don't actually need it, right? But for those guys, having a system for those results is A, easier to stick to initially, and B, improves the understanding. But the idea is, after you have calorie counted for a while, you get to a point where you can eventually look at a plate and be like, I can see exactly kind of how many calories are on that plate. And when you've done enough different types of training, like you've got your cardio fitness up, you've got your resistance training up, you kind of know what foods are going to fuel each one that day. So you can kind of look at your plate and say, I've got a big leg training session later. I feel a bit flat, maybe not that powerful. Okay, I'm going to eat more, rice in this lunch meal I perform better. And you probably do that intuitively, right? If you've got a big, hard kind of set coming up on a movie, imagine you're, earlier in the day or the night before, it's fueling a little more.
Oh no, we just eat the whole day on the set. The craft is there. We eat all the time. The film set is a very different thing. As soon as you know, there's certain stunt guys who've been working for 9 months or whatever. Like we have this one example. His name is Laurent, very lovely, amazing French stunt guy. And I remember he went away to do Into the Badlands in this crazy fighting TV series in where they were shooting in Ireland. And I remember I saw him like 8 or 9 months later. I couldn't recognize him. I was like, you are double your size. Like, what the fuck? And he's like with his French accent. But Renars, you know, we have the food all the time there. It's not much to do. You just eat food. You just hang out. It's so good, and a good latte. Good this latte, that latte. It's very good. and yeah, it's on a set. It's a very different story because you see some stunt guys are very conscious of it, so they do follow their food plans and careful, whatever. I usually just overdo with coffees. Like I would say I'm good with food, but I would have like 6 coffees a day, which normally I have like 2 coffees a day. And then just because you get tired and all sleepy and you don't have proper hours sleep, that one. So yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, like, and again, for me, what really changed my kind of game, I used to eat breakfast and then I have like maybe 1 hour, 2 hours window, and then I would train. But then I kind of found out or learned about the 1 meal a day concept, and also the intermittent fasting before that. So don't eat breakfast, and then if you have lunch, like big lunch, and maybe very small dinner. But then I met some guys who were just very enthusiastic and talking about like the 1 meal a day thing. So you have this one window a day when you eat, you stuff your face, and that's already after the training. And I really struggled to like kind of accept that. I thought, but you know what, let's just give it a go. So what I would do, wake up in the morning, just have maybe a coffee and maybe like tiny piece of chocolate, just have like a little bit of sugar, and then I would go train. And I remember the first couple of weeks was kind of, my brain was just like freaking out. Why are you not putting fuel in your body? Like, what's going on? But then I got used to it and I realized I never had so much energy, because like my stomach, I haven't been eating from the day before, like so about like 20 hours, whatever. And then I felt like I can do all of this gymnastic stuff. I can do all these things what I usually struggle to do. And then I realized, again, and this might be just working for me, but at the same time, I would have other stunt performers and crazy trickers who would say the same thing. So you don't eat like certain amount of time, and then the body allows to kind of rejuvenate, and then you have that energy stuff. And that been working for me. But also, I was in that time where, like, also being part of Dream Boys, 6 meals a day. You need to prep your meals. It has to be 6 meals a day. You have to eat every 2 hours. And I did not like that. I did not like that, the idea that I have to think, I have to look at my watch, like this one I have to do. And then I thought, you know what, 1 meal a day, that works the best for me, because I don't have to cook. And if I do, I just do this one massive meal and I'm done. So first of all, what are your thoughts about fasting, intermittent fasting, and also what do you think about the 1 meal a day? Obviously you heard about that kind of stuff. So what are your thoughts about it?
So I've never actually heard of the 1 meal a day.
Really?
No.
Oh, that's pretty big.
I've never heard of that. I've heard of intermittent fasting. I've tried intermittent fasting. I think if you are resistance training in the evening or late afternoon, then I think... Now, let's remember as well that you don't do that many sets and reps.
Right.
You know, so yours is more movement based. So actually your need for glycogen, carbohydrates to fuel, you know, rep, isn't as much as, say, somebody who just does, you know, weights-based resistance training for their training. I
don't know. I might be disagreeing a little bit, because I do quite a lot of calisthenic workout as well. So I do pull-ups, push-ups. I do like a ring workout, which is all like, it's on my body, but I could compare it to a weight stuff as well. And I do reps. I do like 3 reps of 10 times, and I do like this. I would call it circuit training. So that's what I do, and it's cardio stuff is there as well, like clap push-ups, for example, or like the abs or whatever. So what is that called? Is that would be considered to be as a resistance rep training or not?
I don't know that much about calisthenics and gymnastics stuff, but what I'm learning so far with Ian is that that kind of
training.
How
was his last name?
McLeod.
McLeod, yay.
McLeod, sweet. Is that
we got that one.
So that training is either at the very strength end of the spectrum, where you've got just a handful of reps that are pretty tough, or it's at the very other end of the spectrum, which is very like, conditioning type. Okay. It's this spectrum in the middle of like, 8 to 20 reps, which is going to add size. And calisthenic guys try to avoid that region because the more size you've got, the more inefficient you become in calisthenics movements, right? Now, you're obviously a ripped guy and stuff, but your actual total lean muscle tissue isn't as much as...
I like how you just like evaluating.
You're obviously pretty fucking
I don't know.
lean guy, mate. You're
Look,
pretty lean. and you're shredded, but you're not like wafer skin shredded,
no, I'm not.
you know? Yeah,
And
so,
never been.
Yeah. So intermittent fasting, I think, can get this body. But I don't feel like it could get, say, a stage physique.
Right.
Now, reasons for that is you want to be able to keep your carb intake, if you're doing lots of resistance training for bodybuilding, as high as possible while getting lean, because the higher the carb intake, the stronger you're going to be for the resistance training, the more muscle that you can build and retain. So you're better off getting your calorie expenditure through cardio, right?
Okay.
So if you are intermittent fasting, you've just basically got less time to get in the carbs, or you have to go higher on carb per meal, right? Which is going to get you really full, and that's going to be tough to have like a big amount of carbs, say every 2 hours.
But if you do your so if you do your I do once a day training. I do about 2 hours, 3 hours training, but it's everything done in the morning from like, let's say from 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock till like midday, like noon. And then that's my training is done for the day. So I never train in the evening anymore. And then I take a little break of anything like maybe would have a shake, like a smoothie, not like protein shake, just a smoothie with like all sorts of like fruit or whatever. And then I would wait for 2 hours, and that's where I would stuff my face like big time. And then I'm not eating anything until the end of the day. So how does that? I don't know. How does that correlates with all the other like building muscle and?
Yeah. So I mean, they say muscle protein synthesis, which is the process of building muscle, is activated by a serving of 30 to 50 grams of protein. And muscle protein synthesis will last 3 to 5 hours after that hit of 30 to 50 grams of protein. So the idea is every 3 to 5 hours, you want to be getting a hit of 30 to 50 grams of protein to keep muscle protein synthesis as high as possible.
Right.
Again, if you're doing intermittent fasting, then it's just a longer window without, muscle protein synthesis.
Right.
They say. I definitely think that I feel like when I do cardio, if I do that fasted, it feels better. And I feel like doing cardio first thing in the morning almost kind of speeds up that kind of fasting effect. I feel like if I do cardio first thing in the morning, I feel by the end of it, I feel like it could be, 7 a.m. when I finish the hour of cardio, but I feel like how I would feel if I got to, say, 12 without yet eating. I feel like doing the morning cardio almost speeds up that fasting effect.
Right,
at that point, I can then have my first muscle protein synthesis hit at, say, like 8 a.m. and some carbs in to start then fueling up for the most effective resistance training session possible. And having that longer window allows you to keep the meals a bit smaller, which helps with keeping kind of the gut tighter and the waistline tighter.
Right. I can expand my waistline like really big. Literally just blow it up.
Push it out. Yeah, I always found on intermittent fasting that I just couldn't build as much strength. Yeah. And I think for people who are working as well, sometimes they just get tired, in their kind of like office work and stuff if they haven't had a breakfast. And it also, because they're in like a stressed environment, it leads them to make bad decisions come lunchtime, right?
Yeah.
Intermittent fasting is good if you can stick to it. And that goes back to the whole bespoke, right? Like
Right.
it's not about which method. It's all about which method fits that individual person's routine, requirements, stresses, what they've got going on. So many ways to skin a cat. So many ways to get there.
Talking about the many ways of skinning cat, one of the things I thought of, so you've been in the fitness industry for a long time, and what are the most ridiculous diets or nutrition kind of advices you ever heard that like someone like your clients would come over like, hey, listen, I heard that this I need to rub a chicken leg behind my ear every morning and then I don't know, do something. So do you have any like crazy funny stories about like some of the diets and you're like, what the fuck was that?
Oh man, no, I think people are learning now about the negative effects of the crash diet. I feel like you see a lot less people now doing, well, maybe not here in Bali, but you see a lot less people doing like the juice diets or, like the slim fast diets and stuff. I feel people are getting a bit smarter in that sense. And in exchange for that, other stuff's coming in like intermittent fasting, which a lot of people are saying, you know what, I do that and that worked for me. And it is a way by default to get them to eat overall less calories. A lot of people are maybe incorrectly starting keto, right? Like cutting out carbs entirely. And this goes back to me saying carbs fuel resistance training. Now, when I say resistance training, I should just say explosive exercise. That could be sprinting. Resistance training is explosive exercise, right? Each rep's explosive. And now, there's a reason why the sprinter has a ton of muscle and the marathon runner doesn't, right? Because the sprinter is basically doing, like 20 reps each leg of a super powerful, leg press each time, right? Now, carbs fuel anaerobic exercise, which is basically exercise without oxygen, exercise that happens so intensely and fast that the body doesn't have time to convert fat and oxygen. Now, keto is only good for people who aren't doing any anaerobic exercise, right? Any fast explosive exercise.
So what kind of people are though?
Extremely overweight people. Okay. Yeah. If you are extremely overweight, like very
then keto
obese,
works for you because you have that stuff you need to lose and you can burn that.
You need to create a really big calorie deficit in order to start losing weight quickly. You can't create that much calorie output because you are a walking injury risk. Have you seen the ankles of somebody who's like heavily overweight? They're just waiting to roll an ankle, right? And they're not mobile enough to do any resistance training, again, because the injury risk is so massive. They can walk and do the keto diet to get enough weight off that they can eventually maybe start doing some resistance training.
Right.
Just because they're never going to need carbs because they're not ever going to do anything anaerobic. Whereas a lot of people are going into keto and resistance training and basically becoming skinny fat.
That's like my latte.
they're basically becoming skinny fat. Yeah.
So then there we have these main biggest diets and you hear so much, obviously because of Joe Rogan talking about the carnivore diets, right? So the carnivore diet versus keto diet, what is the main difference?
I don't know that much about the carnivore diet. Tell me about that.
Well, carnivore diet is you just eat meat.
I've never looked into that.
You never, because like even now I have one of these guys. He's you probably saw him, Nikita.
I met him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's right now on a carnivore
diet. He's trying to
diet.
eat 800 grams of beef a day or something.
Yeah, that's all he does. He just eats meat right now. Did you not just
I saw him eat a lot more than meat. He had some sweet potato. We went to a Brazilian.
When was that?
This was after your comedy stand-up.
Yeah, because I think he started the carnivore right after that. Like, yeah, I saw him in a gym 2 days ago. He was just like, Renars, doing my... No, he didn't talk like that. He basically was like, oh, I'm doing this very expensive Dominic's diet, Dominic Rapson, because he has this company called Hunters, and they deliver the meat and everything. He's like, it's just such an expensive diet, and I just eat meat right now. And the first thing when I ask him, like, do you have diarrhea? Like Joe Rogan said, like you would just have diarrhea. He's like, no, I feel good. I feel amazing.
Okay.
So what when someone says things like that, what is your first, because obviously you have for a long period of time, you had the knowledge, you had the studies, you have so much information about what people should be eating, and then someone says like, yeah, the carnivore diet or only vegan diet.
I would be really interested to know how his lifts are being affected by having no carbs. I would say there's probably more to it. I reckon he probably is eating
I mean,
carbs.
yeah, that's one thing about the performance is like physically in the gym. But what about you as a healthy person?
Yeah,
You're losing so many things, right? Like so okay, then let's make it simple. What do you think is the balanced diet? Give me like in a small nutshell as you can possibly have.
So I think getting your 5 a day.
And that is
fruit and veg. Okay, so, and that doesn't necessarily have to be in each meal.
Oh, fiber, you said. I thought you said 5.
I said 5 a day, yeah. So your fruit and veg.
That means 5?
Well, they say have 5 a day for health, right?
Okay.
And we want it to be
5 portions of fruit and veg during the day.
Veg across the day.
Yeah.
To get your micronutrient intake up, which is like vitamins and minerals, which come from those things.
Okay, I'm happy with that. I can live with that.
And for the kind of color palette to be as broad as possible, so you've got lots of different
just
colors.
Carrots, basically.
No. And fruits, I would try to keep carby fruits to either earlier in the day or post-workout.
And carby fruits are which ones?
Apples, bananas, and non-carby fruits might be like berries.
Oranges.
Oranges probably still carby.
Still carby. Oh.
Just because fruit is containing fructose, which is still kind of like, a sugar, still natural sugar.
We got the 5 a day.
Yeah.
Colorful as much as we can. But then also you saying basically you should eat at least 5 times a day.
No, not necessarily.
Oh, the 5 portions, and they could
portions.
be in 3 meals.
Yeah,
okay.
so you could have, say, a fruit, 2 pieces of fruit in meal 1. Okay, meal 2 might have 2 pieces of veg. Meal 3 might have no veg or no fruit, and then meal 4 might have a little bit of fruit.
Oh, okay, and that's 5 a day.
That would be 5 a day, right? 1, 2, 3, 4.
I had 2 beers. I can't count.
Hey, this beer's got
it
lemon.
It was a good one, right?
This is one of this is pretty good. Yeah, and then I would try and it depend on the individual's body weight and their training goals. I would try and get at least 3 hits of protein a day, even if you're don't have that much goals to get big.
And that would be meat basically.
Meat, fish, eggs. It could be, vegan proteins. But with vegan proteins, where you have to be really careful is there's only a handful of them that are majority protein. A lot of the vegan protein sources are actually also extremely high on carbs or fat. And so a lot of vegans are maybe getting a bit heavy where they're being like, oh, yeah, that's protein. I'll have a lot of that. Actually, no, that's 30% protein and 60% carbs. So,
cool.
By eating a lot of that, you're not actually even reaching the protein target, but you're upping way up on your carbs, which you're then not using because you do yoga.
Okay, so five a day. Let's just get to the basics. 5 a day, which is fruit and veg, colorful as possible. More in the morning we had more carby, in the evening less carby. So the berries and stuff.
Fruits.
Yeah, for the fruit. Then we have a fat, which is a meat, fish, eggs, and then we have carbs.
So fat should always be, I think, treated as garnish. Okay, so fat should garnish. Now,
like ketchup. Lots of you guys listen
sugar.
to David Bissell. He puts as much as possible ketchup on everything.
So olive oil could be a garnish, right?
Yeah.
Nuts could be a garnish. The problem with fats is they're extremely calorific for the volume, right? So fats are 9 calories per gram, whereas carbs and protein are just 4. So actually, if you've got, let's say you take a handful of nuts.
Which you usually do on Friday nights. And
Hey! Oh no, that should have been the...
What do you have on Friday nights?
Handful of nuts.
Hey. Does it have to be dry nuts, or it can be like?
They can be, well, they'll start off as juicy nuts. You'd hope they'd be dry.
That's a good one. I almost died actually once from dry nuts. And not the ones you think. I actually had a handful of dry nuts as I was running outside my house in London. And I choked. And I was like, as I was choking, there was no people around. It was like a dark alley. And thank God I had a glass of bottle in my bag. I pulled it out and just like, and got it in my throat. I literally, Renars would be dead from dry nuts. Damn. Who would know? That would be my obituary.
Yeah, wow.
And then you imagine someone would read my eulogy. We had him, and then he left us with dry nuts in his mouth. Such a shame.
Yeah, so one reason not to eat nuts. Okay,
there you go.
You might choke. Nuts can become extremely calorific, is my point. Sorry, fats in general can become extremely calorific. Now, I think across the day, your fats, it's good to get from a lot of the different sources. So fats from oils, fats from nuts, fats from, say, butter, nuts.
Peanut butter.
Yeah, so nuts, oils, butter, and from fish, or it could be omega-3, and then you could also have, say, fats from like red meat, because fats do have some important properties. Fats are something that you can't cut out, and there's different kind of minerals and stuff in them that your body uses, right? And you want to keep like your hair and stuff, you know, looking good. So it's important to keep fats in and have a variety of different fats, but only as small portions and as garnish. So, for example, if I've got a steak in one meal, which I know is a fatty meat, I'm not going to then add another fat sauce to that meal, right, and load it up. Whereas if I'm having chicken, which I know is a low-fat meat, then I might garnish with, you know, a fat sauce like an avocado, right?
Avocado.
And this is where people go wrong with their breakfast, right?
Boom.
Like in Bali, oh my God, like people are getting these healthy breakfasts, but they're probably like 2,000 calories because they're getting like 3 eggs, avocado, butter, you know.
What's wrong with that?
The sheer volume of fats, right?
But then they go straight away to Wanderlust to the CrossFit gym and do for 3 hours.
Yeah. Well, if they're doing that, they're probably burning through it. But ideally, you don't want to have to burn off the calories coming in, right? Like, especially not in excessive, because you've got other things to think about, like how much training can your nervous system actually, take in a week without you getting fried or injured. So, yeah, fats to garnish. If you go too high on fats, then it's just something that you have to burn off.
Then you just get fat. That's it.
Then you just get fat, right? So you got to look out for these healthy and these bowls where it's like peanut butter, and there's probably like 5 tablespoons of peanut butter, and then chocolate flakes, a little bit of fruit chucked in, and every Insta Bali girl is like, "Look at my healthy bowl." Meanwhile, she's wearing like high-waisted pants that tuck her flap in that she's got from eating so many fucking Bali bowls. It's just conning all of us.
Are you fat shaming Bali people now?
No, what I'm doing is I'm shaming Insta girls.
Oh, that's much better, isn't it?
That are hiding their Bali belly with high-waisted bikinis and leggings.
Yeah, but they're not hiding Bali belly. You have to be careful.
Not that kind of Bali belly. You can't hide that, mate.
Bali belly goes projectile.
Yeah.
For the viewers who don't know what Bali belly is, when you get a very bad diarrhea here, or like some food poisoning, basically in Bali, they call it Bali belly. Yeah. Okay, cool. Listen, I really like that about diets. So very simple, colorful, with veg and fruit.
Then the last thing is carbs. You then take carbs in as fuel, because carbs are the only non-essential macronutrient. You could cut them out and you wouldn't die. You don't need them.
Immediately.
You wouldn't actually die at any point. You could live without carbs. They're non-essential.
What do we need them?
You don't need them to live
to
right?
get benching better.
But you do need it to get benching better. So carbs then come in based on, the output, right? So you've got your general base, which is your protein sources, your veg and fruits, which create a big part of the meals and snacks, and then your fats to garnish. And then carbs come in based on fuel, based on how many you need, and then the type can also be based on how close it is to the workout. Like, you don't want to have a load of complex slow digesting carbohydrates when you're going to be having it nice and close to the workout. And also similarly post-workout or in the morning are times when your body is going to be most receptive to faster digesting carbs and insulin spikes without then immediately causing
Jeez, I lost you there, man. It's just so much knowledge there going out of that bucket. I'm like, okay, I just eat when I want to eat. Is that okay?
Yeah, with your genetics, that's
a lot of
more
garnish.
than okay.
You should see my father. My genetics are not amazing. I think I also, part of me believes if you train as much as I train, then I don't think you can much really shoot very wrong that direction. And one thing that I wanted to share with you, since I've been in Bali, I noticed my cravings for sweets are almost gone. And I don't know why, mainly because I eat one watermelon every day. Maybe that's why. But like the good fruit here, good smoothies, what I consume, it's like in the UK, I would have constant craving for chocolate. I would have a coffee. I need a piece of chocolate with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what's going on here. Maybe also that vitamin D. I don't know. Vitamin D. Okay, that's about nutrition. What else? So it's interesting that you never heard about 1 meal a day concept, like the fasting, so intermittent fasting you heard about. And what would you say for people who are just like everyday office, trains maybe 3 times a week? How many times people should be eating? What, in your opinion? Is it breakfast, lunch, dinner, or is it more in between snacking or?
All goes down to the individual again, right? So they're training 3 times a week. What are they doing?
Eating chocolate? Going to the pub?
Yeah. If they're doing just like a general resistance training session, right, with maybe like 10 minutes of cardio after, again, it depends on whether they're looking to maintain or grow or get leaner. Like, okay, you've mastered something that works for your body, right? But, when was the last time you added 3 kg of muscle tissue?
Well, the first one never followed ever in my life when I'm adding muscle or I'm losing muscle. For me, it's, and I wouldn't say like I'm very proud about this, but all I care is about what my body can do. Can my body do a backflip? Can my body do, pull-ups or whatever? And even then, I can't say that I'm really like kind of monitoring that. Like there is sometimes like I do like handstand push-ups, for example. So I do handstand push-ups, the deep ones where you go all the way and you touch your chin against like I would do on a step. So they call them deep ones. And sometimes I can do 10 reps without any problem, without any like kind of stopping and shaking. And sometimes I have no energy whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's where probably you should step in and say, hey, Renars, you missed your garnish.
Yeah.
You
You're
missed
a bit low on carbs.
Hey.
Should have had some oats this morning.
Yeah, so...
yeah, exactly. So, okay, so let's say you're trying to build and maintain a particular amount of muscle tissue for aesthetic reasons, because that's your goal, right? That is a lot of people's goals, and a lot of people don't care about backflips and stuff like that. Now, if that person didn't fuel correctly and had that session where they were just weak on the bench and they just couldn't get any of the weight up, then they're not causing that muscle tissue breakdown and then that growth, and they're then behind on their goal, which is to add a kilo of muscle tissue right. A month, right? So when people come to a trainer not to maintain, right? They come because they're trying to accelerate towards a goal, and that's when sometimes you can't just play it by ear. You got to make sure there's no stone unturned.
True.
And you're constantly making sure the right fuel and the right conditions are there to achieve the result. But if I'm just kind of like, I've built my muscle tissue, I've done that hard phase, and I'm just like maintaining it, then I can play it by ear, and I could probably eat intuitively and be cool. Like I tried to eat intuitively when I got here, and
you got fat?
I got fat, mate. Yeah, I just got like, you know.
And fat for you, what means? It means that you had not perfectly shaped abs.
So I had a 4.5 pack, a 4 and a smidge of the bottoms, and 2 obliques instead of 6 obliques. Basically, that's what it meant.
I just gave up there. We're not coming out. No, this is not happening.
But for me, intuitively eating, I came here and there were so many new factors. So, okay, a lot of my sessions became stretch based, which is a whole different fueling requirement. All of a sudden, this carb level I'm used to maintaining, I'm not processing as much. And then also humidity. I had lost my ability to feel whether or not I was fatigued from training or whether I was just fatigued from the humidity. So I was maybe making incorrect decisions. Whereas if I've got the data coming in from the scale that I'm stepping on the next morning, plus the calories that I ate the day before, then I know exactly whether or not I am or aren't under fueling, because I would have either lost or gained the weight. Yeah, and then the decision is just purely, you know, mathematical, right? Yeah. Whereas I'm in a new environment, I've got new stimuluses coming in, my ability to intuitively eat was being clouded in a way it might not have been clouded if I was in the UK. So that's when I actually signed up for meal prep provider, Motion Fitness Food, meal prep provider in Bali, get signed up. And immediately was starting to look leaner from the get-go.
I like you immediately couldn't figure out to differentiate from right and wrong, because you're in Bali, and Bali is the place for sinners.
Exactly.
It's just all the wrong decisions here.
Being pulled left, right, and center.
It's their fault.
And it'll do that to you if you don't have a plan.
They tricked me in.
Yeah.
They tricked me in.
If you're coming to Bali, come with an exact plan of what you want to achieve.
Yeah, and it's never going to happen.
Yeah, and then it's still never going to happen.
That's definitely not going to happen.
Tell you what, the thing I like about Bali the most is also its downfall. I like that everything's like a quick scoot away, right? And, you know, there's not
scoot away. Yeah, I like that.
It's a scoot away, you know. I scoot to the gym 4 minutes. I just get on my bike. I go there. And I can park near the door, you know. It's not like I need to park in some car park and then.
And dude, when you're going to go back to UK, you're going to be like, what the fuck just happened? Because that was after my first 7 months here. I went back to UK. I couldn't believe, like, someone would say, hey, man, let's meet up for a dinner. I was like, you are 40 minutes away. There's no way I'm going to travel 40 minutes just to see you for dinner. This is not going to happen. And here, it's like, if someone is further than 10 minutes, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm like, this is way too far.
Well, no one is, right? Everyone's just in this circle.
Magic.
Like, so you'll go to the gym easy, but then you'll also go for a beer easy.
Yeah, everything's next door. Like the gym is next to the beer. Very convenient. Very convenient. Okay, so talked about nutrition, which definitely I wanted to talk to you about the training. What are the kind of trends now, like for maybe the last couple of years? I mean, I'm right now exposed very to the CrossFit gym, but I thought CrossFit gym was quite big. That's not that big anymore, that movement. What is big now? What people do?
I mean, HIIT stuff did become a trend, right? You know, like, and people are just completely misusing the word HIIT as well. So HIIT stands for high intensity interval training. And the only types of cardio, which is high intensity, i.e. 100%, is, say, sprinting or sprints on a bike.
Spin classes or whatever,
stuff where you can go at 100% and do it in intervals, right? You know, like a scissor lunge, it's not 100%, right? There's a break when you're in the air as you then move, you know. Same with like a burpee. So glorified circuit training, you know, became Masters HIIT became like a kind of trend. And so a lot of people were kind of doing that. And even influencers were jumping on that because it was very easy to sell. You know, it's a low barrier to entry. You can do it on your, you know, your floor, and there's not that much technical tuition required in order to do it, because they're not carrying a weight, so there's not that much injury risk, right? So that became a trend, and with Instagram and stuff, lots of people doing that. And
but it works though.
Not necessarily. I wouldn't say people are getting that good results doing it. I'd say they're pushing lots of, you know, misalignments and injuries into their body where they might not be focusing on form, because you're going past failure, right? It's like, yo, just keep going and do it for the time period. It's like Barry's boot camp. I've had people that have come from Barry's boot camp to train with me to fix themselves because their body's broken and it's injured, because they're going past the point of form failure. In that kind of instructor class environment, the instructor can't stop and, you know, spend like 10 minutes critiquing each person's form. So they just give generalized instructions, you know, like keep your chest up. Now, saying keep your chest up to one person who has got quite a hunchback is probably a good cue. But then when you say keep your chest up to somebody who's got good mobility, they're going to overextend the opposite direction, you know, and overburn their spine erectors, right? So, yeah, HIIT and things like Barry's, they're glorified, but they're really bad. And the thing is, a lot of the influencers promoting this stuff, right, they'll do it because of that exact reason. Low barrier to entry, quick, it's flashy. It looks flashy for an Instagram video. Okay, I'm going to jump, lunge, scissor. This thing's moving. It catches the eye, right? But the reality is that person's going to spend 10 minutes filming HIIT, you know, jumps and stuff, and then go and do their squat, their leg press, and their hip thrust to build their actual muscle that they're trying to sell people. Because it's hard to sell, do 3 sets of 10 reps of squats twice a week, every week for 2 years. How do you sell that?
It's very good that you said that, because this is very similar, like how gymnastics versus CrossFit. Gymnastics, to do basics takes forever. To get good, to get to the good point, to do good handstands, you need to do this against the wall every day, blah blah blah, da, da. And then you go to CrossFit. They already legs against the wall. The forearms are all over the place. The backs are all over the place. But I'm doing it. It's happening. I'm doing it. And then I heard so many stories how CrossFit people injure themselves. I don't know if you heard any, but like they just go too hard, push way too hard. Oh, it looks like awesome. I'm a warrior. I can do this. Like, warrior, you've been sitting on your ass in the office for the last 20 years. Yes, you are a warrior. And like the same thing, like comparing to gymnastics, they go very slow, really simple warm-ups, and they only allow you to do certain things when you are capable to do this. Can you do basic handstands against this? Okay, then you can do the next one. Instead of like, oh, no, it's fine. You don't need any strength in your arms. Just do... what they do, like the muscle up, you know, the CrossFit, kipping, and then it just like just jerking all over the place. I love you CrossFitters, but it looks funny. So, anyways,
this is it, right? So it's very hard to sell that kind of dedication gymnastics would take, right, to somebody who just wants quick results and something flashy now. So, kind of HIIT training took the place of dedicated, you know, proper resistance training as a kind of mask or trend, in the way that, you know, CrossFit took the place of, say, something like gymnastics. Now, I think more movement-focused types of training, like Ian McLeod's Nirvana, is starting to come to the forefront a bit. People are starting to see, you know, the benefits of mobility more, especially how our postures are getting worse and worse and worse from our more inactive and office-based lifestyles.
Sedative lifestyle,
yeah. So I think that's coming in. It's coming in slowly, which is good. I think the HIIT trend is maybe kind of starting to pass, and people are starting to see the benefits of, you know, good, proper resistance training combined with some movement-based mobility. And people are starting to see CrossFit as an injury waiting to happen.
And then that's something what you are considering in the future to teach as well. As I understand.
Yeah,
'Cause you're like learning and
movement-based
trying to kind of open this up. So how much you know about the animal movement and what's his name? Portal, that guy. Oh, geez. He was like capoeirista / gymnast / Portal something. His logo was like a monkey.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I already forgot. But he was huge, and like I think he's still huge, and like his programs are super expensive to like be part of it and stuff. But like he got to like amazing level. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, where I'm going with all that stuff is I always go with these things with two things in mind. A, how's it going to affect my own training? And B, what is the transferability of what I'm going to learn towards my client base? Because they're not always going to want to do as much as I'm going to want to do. Like I tried Animal Flow and I found it quite good. But it's more of an art, and I think to get to a particular result, it's less systemized. Let's say I want to achieve C. I can't just do A plus B to achieve C. Instead, what I've got to do is the whole alphabet and achieve the whole alphabet at the same time. I've got to master Animal Flow, the fine skill in the movement of all these different things.
Yeah, there's so many little details.
This small flow, it isn't systemized in a way to be like, okay, I just want to correct this bit of posture in this bit of way. I want to achieve C. How can I do the least possible things to achieve that? So I've been learning a lot at Nirvana on improving flexibility and stability, mobility in areas, activating right muscles. And I just found a qualification actually that I'm going to take on, which I think systemizes their teachings a bit more.
Oh, okay.
And it has a method of assessing as well, assessing an individual in terms of their movement and ranges of motion.
Because I think for years that kind of stuff was like not considered to be a voodoo, but it was considered to be very something impossible almost, or very difficult to integrate in the mainstream. It's like when you look at the gymnasts, like what is the percentage of people who are gymnasts out of the whole population? It's very tiny, and they're just thinking, oh, these guys are just crazy. And also they've been training since they can walk, kind of thing. And it's very high, even though when they be training, so all these years, there's also a very high ratio of getting injuries and stuff. And then people would not even assume that you could do gymnastics when starting from I started when I was 27. So that was considered to be that you're super old to start gymnastics. And because the injury ratio and all that is higher. But then now, because it kind of moves to mainstream, which is awesome. And then someone like Ian representing Nirvana, pushing that further. And I was actually very, very kind of nicely surprised when I went to Nirvana, seeing people really in advanced age would do these certain things and, going slow, but they go in that good direction. It's amazing. Instead of the gym bros, gym bros, what's up? Just do how much you bench.
So, I mean, the thing is, I still want to be a gym bro at heart. That's what I enjoy.
Not with this face. Come on, man.
I enjoy pumping, you know.
Like in a club.
In the club, getting the pump, with my handful of nuts.
Dry nuts.
There's dry nuts, yeah. So I enjoy the feeling of the pump. It's like Arnie said. Arnie used to say the feeling of the pump is like coming,
Oh, it's like coming, it's so good,
And that's what I enjoy. I enjoy leaving the gym with, a feeling of being pumped.
Yeah.
Now, what's led me down this rabbit hole of the mobility stuff is that training leads to tightness and, injury and things.
Yeah.
So... my thoughts were, how can I continue to do the training that I enjoy that makes me look how I want to look while staying injury free, staying fully mobile and healthy in all my joints? And that's what I've been learning to do in Nirvana, and I feel like this qualification I've found is really going to complement that. And I think if I can tick those boxes, then for me, doing some of the extra fun things like a handstand or a muscle up, they're nice value adds, but they're not my refinement. They're not my bread and butter.
Yeah. That's just a garnish.
It's garnish.
Hey. On this one, we can finish the second section, and we're going to go back. With the third action, we're going to be talking about books and movies and all the fun stuff.
Oh, shit.
So before we going into talking about books and movies and stuff, one thing, give me a little brief about your family. Like what kind of family situation did you grow up? Siblings? What did your parents do? Did or still doing?
So I have a sister.
Mm-hmm.
She's a year and a half older.
Yeah.
We're a bit different in that she's a teacher now and she's very, settled. Husband, dog, you know what comes next. Whereas
Another dog?
Oh, you're killing it today, Ray. You're just
so funny.
You're on fire.
God.
And then my dad used to work in the ticket businesses. So he basically had kind of his own company whereby he would get like bulk amounts of tickets for people for, mainly for companies, say like hotels or travel companies that wanted to put on a gig. But this was back in the days when tickets were physical tickets. But he's retired now since as well the kind of age moved on and went digital, everything's StubHub, and stuff now. My mum is a full-time foster carer.
Oh, right.
So she only started that after I kind of moved out. So it wasn't really part of my growing up.
What did she do before then?
She was a clerk. She was administrative clerk. My dad was obviously doing the main business, and my mum was mainly stay-at-home mum, and then became clerk just because it's hours while the kids at school, right? Can work short hours. But then after we kind of moved out, she wanted to do something a bit more meaningful, and that's when she moved into the foster caring.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So I had a good kind of like a family childhood growing up, went on the little family trips and stuff. I've been to Disneyland Paris like 7 times. So that's my family.
And you and your sister, you guys, because you have such a small age gap, which I have an older sister, she's 5 years older, so it's like we struggled big time. And she was like this big sister, she's responsible for me, I'm this annoying little brother. Some of those things haven't changed yet. So were you close with your sis? Like, were you guys cool? Or
when we were like younger, we would like have little fights and stuff, when it's the age that it's still appropriate to like fight with your sister. But we used to do loads of things together growing up, and then we'd have the little, fights that you do at that age. But when we got to an age where kind of fights just kind of wouldn't happen, I'd say we have a mutual understanding of each other, me and my sister. We get along, we do some things together from time to time, we check in on each other. We're not like besties, just because we both live slightly different lives, but we're not resentful of that fact either. It's more just kind of like, cool, you do you, okay, we haven't caught up in ages, we need to catch up. I'll talk about mom, talk about dad or something.
Right. And was this like your first Christmas being without your family? Being
No.
away from family?
I did Christmas in Bali in 2019.
All right. So this is your second Christmas in Bali?
Yeah. I very much remember that Christmas because me and my friend Bob got a bed at Finn's and just spent a whole lot of cash getting... We were tourists in Bali at that point, right?
So typical.
Typical.
And when they say if they got bed in Finns, it doesn't mean it was a hotel. They got a bed there together. Now it's like this beach club, and you can get this bed, which is like kind of a party area, and you get the drinks and all
Thanks
that stuff.
for adding that one.
Yeah, I was just thinking like we got me and my friend Bob got a bed in Finns.
Oh shit! That was a good time. They do good sushi in Finn's. I'll give them.
Oh yeah, was the main focus, obviously, of the night. Yeah, and in the bed you were just getting that sushi again and again.
Sushi boat.
Nice. And your parents, like, how do they look at your choice of the career, especially after you studying in this very serious kind of did I forget already?
Aerospace engineering.
Aerospace engineering. Something with the space and aerospace engineering. So you did that, and then all of a sudden you're just doing fitness and stuff. Or how did your parents accepted that?
I've been quite blessed in a way that my parents have not really ever tried to have a say.
Yeah.
They just let me do whatever I want to do. And, you know, there's always a bedroom there for me if, say, something went tits up. You know, like Simon Cowell moved back home broke at 31, you know, like, you know, I think, you know, I wouldn't say I've had like, you know, that much financial support. My parents weren't that well off, but there's always been a room for me, you know, a place that I could fall
really
back
nice.
on. So that's allowed me to pursue my own spirit and my own ambitions.
And where they're supportive of, like Dave says, that's it. I really want to concentrate and I believe and I want to do this, instead of saying, "Oh, son, maybe get a good, like a real job."
Nah, always supportive. I mean,
That's awesome.
All of my friends I went to school with, most of them became, you know, tradesmen, and I was kind of the only really one that went to uni. So every now and then, in my earlier years of doing my own thing, and after my degree, my mum would joke and say, "You should have just got a trade."
Yeah,
you know, or
should
something.
be a plumber.
Yeah, you should have just got a trade.
But you're like, I'm a kind of a plumber.
Oh shit! 10 years plumbing experience daily. Let's go.
Oh my god. If people who listen to this, if they would hear the conversation we just had outside with some of our mates, they would understand the reference. Yeah, that's great. That's great that your parents support you and stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's cool.
I mean, I was quite lucky as well. Like my dad wasn't very. He's like, get a real job, get a proper job. What the fuck you're doing? But my mom, like, especially when I was like decided to move to Canada and just like to leave everything behind, she said like, listen, just figure out what the fuck you want to do, you know, and as long as you're happy and all that stuff. And now when I started doing podcasts, my mother, who's a journalist, and one of the podcasts I did with actually one of the biggest or the main investigative journalist in Latvia, who speaks very well English because he grew up in the States. And when she saw me doing that podcast with him, she's like, "Yes, son, you found your thing.
You made it.
Yeah,
you got out of the land." And you made it.
Yeah, but it's like, but then she's like, "But I don't understand anything. What are you saying there?" Because in English. And I was like, "Mom, there's this thing you can on YouTube. You can press it and you can like get the subtitles." She hasn't figured out it yet, so I will help her one day. Yeah, and then you grew up outside London, or actually in London?
On the outskirts of London. A place called Purley in South Croydon, and Croydon is technically a London borough.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, CR is in my postcode.
Yeah.
So it's quite quick into London while, you know, not being.
Yeah. And as a kid, you did experience London. You would go to some some art stuff, like some musicals.
Let's go
or
Natural
whatever.
History Museum, see the dinosaurs.
Hey,
you know,
get on the tube.
Get on the tube.
Cool. Well, now this is the segment where we're talking about the books, and as I say, books, films, and people. When someone tells me like their favorite, I can tell kind of almost like quite a lot about what kind of personality you are and what you're into. And I keep saying that instead of like telling, like when people say like, show me your 5 friends and I can tell you who you are. And then it's like, for me, it's like, show me your 3 favorite books and films and whatever, then I can tell you who you are, kind of thing. So with the books, I mean, you know, I'm going to go straight away to my favorite book as well, which has been my favorite book for a long period of time. It's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Sean Covey. Steve Covey, it was his son, right? Steve Covey or Sean Covey, one of them is father or son. Anyways, I actually met him in person when I was in Canada. My friend got us tickets to this seminar where Covey, the senior, was holding this thing, and I remember like she said it cost about $400, like it's for 2 days, but it's for free for you. We got the free, and I remember like 20 minutes into that seminar, I get a booty call from this really hot from this really hot Nicaraguan girl who I met like a couple of weeks ago.
Nicaraguan.
Yeah, she was like half Nicaraguan, half Canadian. I met her in this salsa place, and she's like, "Oh, do you want to come over to mine?" Yep, I'm on my way. So I never learned anything about Sean Covey's stuff, Steve. But then down the line, it was crazy that I kind of lost this job. I was working this company, and then I had a lot of free time because they were still paying for like 3 or 4 months. And I started kind of like soul searching, like trying to figure out what the hell I'm gonna do with my life. And I started reading a lot of books. And one of them, I went to a library, and it was like 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teenagers. And I started looking through it, and I'm like, ooh, the pictures and everything. This is really cool. And then all of a sudden, like, just kind of like, whoosh, my head blew up. I remember that because also I got the grown-ups book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and I tossed it under my bed, and I also never read it. And then I read the teenagers, and his son wrote that book for teenagers, and then I went and I read the big book. And yeah, so long story short, I mean, 7 Habits, I mean, like raised as a Catholic, I wish that instead of 7 commandments, what we were taught as a kids, would be taught as a kids seven
this is
habits of highly effective people.
A lot of people who are like entrepreneurs and stuff and podcasts will talk about problems with the schooling system, that it teaches you kind of like facts, you know, and things, but it doesn't teach you that much about life.
Yeah, and that's the habits is like the first thing, like, you know, the one of the I remember I used it when I got kicked out of Canada, and I was sitting in this little jail, and I remember I had
kicked out of Canada.
Yeah, and I had an option whether I be proactive or active. Active would be reactive, so I would be like I could cry, I could blame people, I could try to this and this, or just proactive. See what you got and see how you can move on with this. And I was just sat down and I was just giggling in there and like, you know, whatever is going to happen. And when I got kicked out of Canada and that being in UK, probably one of the best things that ever happened in my life, because that's how I got into, you know, the Dream Boys. I got into like the stunts and doing all these films. And living in Canada, that would be very, very difficult to achieve, especially because of the paperwork and all that stuff. So yeah, man, tell me about how did you find 7 Habits and how long it's been your kind of one of your main books.
You know what? It's funny actually, because earlier in the podcast I mentioned how in my early, 20s I was like running business and stuff, and then I got into personal training. I didn't have to do that. I haven't actually read a book now in a number of years.
Really?
Man. Yeah. I can't even remember all of the habits, and this is one reason I had to break from my, comfort zone that I was in. So I can imagine a lot of the traits of that book are still in me right now, but what the 7 habits again?
Yeah, I can't tell you as well straight away from my head, but like some of the things like sharpen the saw. The concept of sharpening the saw, so what I did, I actually, before this podcast, I did the audio version of all the 3 books you gave me. I listened to all 3 of them, and it was cool because I never listened the audio version of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I just read it. And it's so funny, like when you listen to it, it's difficult to actually kind of remember what each of these habits are. Yeah. You kind of catch the ideas and the concept, like synergy, for example. It's all about the synergy. It's all about the win-win, not just win-lose or whatever that attitude. It's all about the what they said in something in mind, like the beginning in mind, that you always have that deeper idea what you're gonna do. You have that
keep the end in mind.
Keep the end in mind. Yeah. So what is the reason why I do this? Then one of the coolest things I think I really like when they talk about priorities. So if you have the to-do list of the day, then I remember from this book I always do a to-do list, and I always prioritize which are the most important ones, and how sometimes because we do it wrong, we do some stuff what we think is important, but it's on a big big spectrum, it's not important at all. And then in the end you just realize you spend half of your day doing this thing which is not that important at all. So that is like, it's so important to figure out first things what are more important and what it's going to be paying back in a long period of time. Same thing about like how you have these priorities, you have these things what you need to do, like every day you read a little bit of book, or you do some of these habits, other things what helps you for your future development and to reach your goals in the future. So these kind of things, that's definitely alien, especially from where I'm from. Like from little town, I grew up there. Even then when I moved to uni, to capital and going to uni, even then people would not talk about it. There's never considered these kind of things. And then you read this stuff and you're like, oh my God. And just to finish the idea, like one of my favorite, what I said is like sharpen the saw, when they say about how someone comes to, you are the guy who tries to cut a tree, right? You have a very dull saw and you're cutting and cutting, it doesn't go anywhere. So I come over and I tell you, Dave, how about you sharpen it? Then you can faster to cut it. And then your response is, no, I don't have time to sharpen it because otherwise I'm going to lose time from cutting it.
Yeah.
And even though it sounds so basic and so stupid, you know, but people keep doing it. People do keep using the same approaches to so many things in their lives without understanding that they could actually improve them and it would be so much easier, you know? So then the other thing was about sharpen the saw. Then it was like this, the 4 pillars of our life, like to have a comfortable life. So it's like the soul, body, your heart, and like finances, I think, like the work stuff. Yeah. So if any of those we pay too much attention to, let's say all you focus is money, you just chase that money, then you realize your family situation is shit, your friendship is also down, and then your soul, your meditation, whatever, is gone as well. So you need to figure out the balance between all of those things. And they don't have to be these 4 pillars. It can be any of the things that you have in your life. Just like we're saying about you need proper food, then you need the proper training, then you need proper sleep. And those are like the 3 mains what people say in the fitness industry. So if you can have both of these, food and training, amazing, the highest level ever, but you don't sleep properly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It all works for life, right? You know, feeding your soul is definitely something that I always try to make sure that I do, right? Like, and that can be experiences, that can be new education, and that's what keeps me fresh and keeps me wanting to do new opportunities, right? I think a lot of people that get in, you know, the rat race and, you know, get on the ladder and whatnot, they lose their ability to, you know, climb because they stop. And to be honest, another thing this goes back to as well is, you know, ourselves, me being, say, 31 and still trying to come to Bali and learn to surf and do these things, and you being 40 and still smashing all those things. Like, there's so many soul-feeding things from when we were a child that we think, oh, I can't do now because I'm 25. You know, oh, I'm an adult, I can't do that. That stuff feeds your soul. That gives you the energy, to quit the job that's not working. Yeah. The energy and, you know, the self-belief to, you know, start the business that you wanted to start, you know. And so, like, I see a lot of people in the city that fall into that trap where they're in a job they don't want to be doing at the same time as not feeding their soul with the stuff it really needs because they're just doing where the group's going, which is having dinners and drinking, and they're stuck, right? They're dead. You know,
and the worst, and you see, for those people, one of the worst things is because they are surrounded by those kind of people. And then when you come to a place like Bali, you're surrounded by people like also like, yeah, I'm gonna do podcasts, I'm gonna open a business, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna be digital nomad, I'm gonna travel the world. And then you just sit all of a sudden for the first couple of days, that's at least my experience, has felt like I'm really like not fitting in here. I feel like this is, you know, I'm a stunt man, but you know, but I still go and I work for the man, right? You know, like, but the mindset should be that we should be the man, and that's one of the books. The other one, what you were talking about, is actually a good segue. Is the Millionaire Fast Lane? The Millionaire Fast Lane.
Really like that one. Man.
Yeah, that was all about how we work for ourselves. Like, we need to figure out that way, that how to get there. And he started as like with a dream that one day he's gonna have that Ferrari or that Lamborghini he looked at, and then instead of just being like assuming I never get the Lamborghini, what he did, he went and asked the guy who had the Lamborghini, how the fuck did you get it? And he said that I'm an inventor. And then he realized that is totally deviates for the accepted paradigm of, work, do your dues, pay your dues, work for 50 years, and then you get pension or whatever, and work slowly. And they say all just promoting about these funds, and then it's going to grow. No, fast line. That's what the idea is, the fast line is. But then you have to deviate from the norm and really get away from that pack of sheep.
It's all about picking the right pathway. It literally comes down to that, right? Like, there's one pathway, there's a fast lane, and it's going to come with scares and bumps and hits. And, they say as an entrepreneur, a really famous saying is, you can have the best day of your life and the worst day of your life in the same day. Famous entrepreneur saying. It's really true. And a lot of people choose the slow lane, right? Which is a job where somebody else is controlling, when you get the pay rise and the promotion. A fund, as opposed to managing a stock yourself, where somebody else is managing the fund. And so, it's not going to completely capsize, but you also know it's only going to be steady and progressive gains, right? But it's low risk, and you go to sleep at night and be chill. It's as simple as picking the right lane and staying in it. And I was really into that when I got out of uni, picked my lane, founded my business and whatnot, and all got quite intense. Took a break, went into obviously the personal training, did really well in that, but it wasn't the fast lane, because when you are the service, you can't sell it. The whole idea of the book, The Millionaire Fast Lane, is that, okay, if you own your own business and brand, and your business makes 100K a year, you can make 100K a year from it, and then you can sell it for 10 times how much profit it makes. That's literally the difference between working another 10 years of your life.
And that people who wouldn't sell their business, they basically say, but I have this business which constantly gives me this comfort of making this money. Why would I sell this, the goose of laying me eggs, why would I do that? But in the same time, the idea is like, because you take that risk, that's going to allow you, yes, there's another risk can be considered, but in the same time, you can be open to these other opportunities. But if you're not taking that risk, you're never going to be open to those opportunities. And it does all this stuff. It's just, it feels like it comes to so basic. Like, if you're never going to go and say hi to these people who are just chilling at the beach, you're never going to make new friends, and that's literally you getting out of your fucking comfort zone, and Millionaire's Fast Lane. Like, I really like the guy was funny, just so cool. Just so cool. Jealous. I'm not sure if he's the one also who was reading the book. I'm not sure about that, but it was like so many cool, funny bits where he was saying that, well, and I wrote this book and I made another $1 million. Now I'm just kind of, spreading the love. But the way he started was like, it was very,
websites. Websites, yeah.
But like and the idea that you make $200 in the first week. Yeah, okay. Then like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, you make $300 a week. And then it's kind of progression. But if you compare it to someone who is like, because he went to university as well. So you get that education, and then you say, you have two options. You start here from zero, maybe not gonna do any well for at least first 2-3 years, but they don't tell you that actually in those 2-3 years, even if you're not gonna do well, you're gonna learn so much. They don't tell you that. Or the other option is just like, get a job from like whatever company, this corporation, and you get this money straight away, and you're gonna get this stability, you're gonna get this recognition and this car and all this kind of stuff. And then most of them just choose that one. And like, one of the good examples is like when I was reading this book, I was pretty geeky about strategy games, like this game called the Heroes of Might and Magic, where you build your own, like, the army, and you start from like first two kind of army guys, and you like go and fight, and you kind of survive, blah, blah, blah. Then you get more army guys, then you get bigger, and the army grows bigger. And that idea how just all, like, you started from zero, there was nothing there, and then you just to this massive, that satisfaction is just insane. Just to think about that, that's how you can, operate in your life. Just like start business, whatever. You get your first partner who's like, oh, you have a similar mindset, you go together. Oh, it didn't work out. Like he fucked you over, whatever. But you learn from that. You learn what to do now. Then you go back and then try and find other partners, or you do it by yourself. But you learn from that whole experience. And people are just so afraid to do that, because also they hear the stories. Oh, like, this guy's trying to do business or whatever. But yeah, it's the comfort zone is one of the biggest kind of, because as humans, we want to be safe, we want to be knowing that we're going to have food tomorrow, instead of like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah, it's fighting against our natural instinct.
Yeah, exactly. And then the third book is the 4-Hour Work Week. And that one I actually read also a while ago. And then one of my guests suggested that one. And that book is fascinating. And it's like, I think like the biggest message and the main message for this book was there's so many things you can outsource and figure out how to, and this is like the efficiency management, how efficiently you can work. So again, instead of spending your own time doing certain things, you can outsource that. There was a lot of emphasis on outsourcing stuff to India. Like, there's one example where the guy was like, well, I outsourced my Indian assistant to write a letter to my wife apologizing of what happened like 2 days ago. And I was like, I don't think my girlfriend would be happy about that. Like if I would just outsource someone to send a letter of apology.
Yeah. Yeah, right. It's about, picking the tasks that really need you to be doing them, and tasks that don't need you to be doing them. You have someone else do them, right? About the value of time, and figuring out the value of time. That's something that I really, got into as a personal trainer, right? When I was selling my time, as money. Yeah. Basically anything that I was doing that I could get someone else to do for less than what my hourly rate was, I was doing. So I had meal prep delivery. I wasn't making my own meal prep anymore. Everything, we got cleaners, I wasn't even changing my bed sheets. But you got to do it in like a scalable manner, right? Yeah. So the product itself has to be scalable too. The thing is, my time wasn't scalable, but I got quite good at doing that and finding ways to assist my routine so that I could really maximize my own time. Yeah. But yeah, the 4-Hour Work Week, again, it just like the Millionaire Fast Lane, they're inspirations to keep you going for the best thing to go for, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so Millionaire Fast Lane, he's all about, setting up a brand and a business opposed to taking a job, because a brand and a business can grow exponentially and have a retail value. And the 4-Hour Work Week is about picking something that allows you to work less and do more and is scalable and, outsource things. And they're all the best pathways to go. Like, okay, you would want to do something that can make you a millionaire quicker, and you want to do something that requires only 4 hours a week of work.
That makes sense. And like my argument usually is when someone says like, oh, Renars, you don't really cook. I'm like, yeah, because I'm wasting my time. Like I can afford to whether to go eat out or to order some food. This is the thing. I don't mind to cook, to have this once in a while experience with my friends or my family. And it's a beautiful bonding experience, whatever. Even though I'm not crazy cook, but it would be nice just like to have having a beer. We sit down and we cook together. It's fantastic. In Bali, that never happens because the food to take out is so much cheaper. And that's why I love to be here, because like you want to eat, just order Gojek. Gojek is the delivery thing here. But that was my argument. Also goes to, I rather trust people who knows how to do it, and they're way more efficient than I would do it. Let's say you as an experienced plumber. Let's say like something happens in my bathroom, right? It looks like I could kind of fix it. It's not too bad. But again, I rather get a professional, get it sorted. And, the same thing with my motorbikes, doing stunting and stuff. Like, I am passionate about riding the motorbikes. I'm not passionate about trying to fix them and to figure out what to do here or there. So I always just like, you guys do it. because I know, and I'm not going to try to waste my time.
The concept of being the best at one thing, right? You know, that one thing, become really good at doing that
exactly.
one thing, you know?
It doesn't have to be the one thing, especially in my case. Like, I do many different things, but I'd rather do those things what I believe that I want to do, first of all, and like what the time I really enjoy it. So if you would tell me 2 options for the Renars, you're going to go for motorbikes and doing wheelies, or you're going to fix your toilet. Kind of not a brainer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, man, 100%.
There you go. So no, this is an amazing choice of the books, man. I really enjoyed it. And Fastlane Millionaire, I never heard of that one. Or maybe I heard of it, but so now I had a chance to look into it. And then we had People. Well, I asked for movies. The movies you chose was Happy Madison. I did not have time to look into that, but I'm just going to go to Rush Hour series because those are some of the coolest ones. And Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker. I'm a huge fan of Rush Hours. And I think one of the probably best comedy, action movies. Would you say like you had a preference? Did they make 3 at the end or just 2?
Yeah, they had 3.
They had 3, but I remember the first 2 for sure. What was the third one? So the second one where, do you remember them well?
No. I just remember the vibe.
Yeah, the vibes, yeah.
The storyline and the plot. But yeah, for me, growing up, movies were a big part of, my teens. They were my way of switching off, and they were kind of like my inspiration. I watched the films and I thought, that's where life's going, man.
Yeah. And that's what it's going to be.
Because I thought that, it kind of did.
Yeah.
Like our story earlier about the about the strippers from the strip club. That's some movie shit.
Yeah.
Not that life's all about that, but there's plenty other stories, like going places, going to LA, driving down the beach, and doing fun events, competitions, competing. Movies really just were a big part of my switch off and my inspiration. But yeah, I really love action comedies with feel good endings. And Rush Hour, all about that. Action, love the martial arts of Jackie Chan. He was also funny. Yeah. I read Jackie Chan's autobiography and he actually worked very fucking hard, that man.
Very hard.
Very hard.
How old do you remember how old was he when his parents left him at this it was like art school. They called it or the theater school. Where they were, I think he was like 6 or 7 years old, Jackie, and then every day they would need to do 1 hour handstand.
Mate.
Yeah, they did some crazy shit. And one of the craziest for me as also like working stunt performer was that when he started getting into stunts was basically you come on the film set and literally there's like, they stand on like 2 buildings or whatever and stunt coordinator says, okay, you need to jump from this building to this one. You kind of miss it. You fall there, you roll there, and this is the action. Go. Who wants to do it? and there were points where, I don't want to exaggerate, I'm not sure, but I think there was points where like some people would die and you're literally like, okay, you need to do it. Like, you want a job or you don't want to do the job? Like nowadays that would never happen. Maybe in crazy America, maybe they would do. Even they would be more
like
careful.
80s Jackie Chan.
Yeah. They literally people just die and like, okay, so if you want to get, want to work, so you need to try to do this now. And some of that stuff, like we would watch some of it's just so gnarly. I mean, and Jackie had so many crazy injuries, and like one of them was like when he was. This was what he already kind of recognized when he was jumping into forest on this tree and he kind of caught it or missed it and just fell head down and like had this like skull fractured and a piece of skull was out. But my favorite one is the funniest one where he broke his foot. I think it was a rumble in where there was this scene where he this gang wanted to attack him. He was looking after his uncle's shop.
Okay.
And this gang was like always causing trouble in the shop. And then he
sounds like a Jackie Chan.
Yeah, and then he was like, oh yeah, like try to get their attention, whatever. And this one guy, he said something like, I apologize after you kiss my ass. And he would pull his pants down and expecting that Jackie would kiss his ass. And Jackie broke a antenna from the car and just smacked his ass like as hard as he could. And then he was like running away from them and all this like comical stuff. But yeah, during this film, he broke his foot. I think it's this one. And then they had a scene where he's behind the boat on the rope and doing water skis, but just with his feet. And
which movie's that?
Yeah,
I remember that.
That's we need a Jamie here who types things up, looks up. But yeah, so and his a foot was broken. It was in cast.
And isn't he like fighting people?
They put a sock. They put a sock which resembled a shoe. So from the distance, it looks like he still has a shoe on his right foot or something. And he was water skiing still and one of his feet were just broken. It's just insane. And you see like that kind of stuff like nowadays would never happen. And yeah, he's a legend. Jackie, and another thing what I really like about Jackie, and I can relate to this, is that he said basically that if there's a day when I don't do a workout, I feel sick. I feel very like, for me it's the same thing. Even if like I would be injured or whatever, I would still do a little stretch, little cardio or something. So it's, for me, training, it's like a healing. I don't know. It's like huge part.
You know what? With my training at the moment, a lot of the sessions I've been doing have been quite theory based and educational based. So I've not really been getting that kind of feeling of having done a workout. And
the pump.
The pump.
The pump is gone.
That's it. And I feel clogged up. I feel a bit like gloggy and stuff. And I can relate.
Yeah, training is, I think for me, like, just to think about, like, you sweat out. Like, when I do my training, I sweat, especially here in Bali now, so much. That's cleanses. That's just cleans your body, like, from all the shit. And then,
blood flow. And
then you go to the sauna, you go to cold bath. I do all of those things, and it's just, like, made such a huge difference. Yeah, so that's Jackie. Like, any other movies? Because, like, Madison, what is this Madison thing?
Happy Madison isn't a film. There's two films. There's Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison.
I heard of the Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore was the golf one, right?
Yeah. Sandler.
Happy Madison is now Adam Sandler's production company based off his two most successful films, Happy Gilmore and Billy Madison. So he just merged the names together.
Dude, I just watched Grown Ups. I'm not kidding you. Yesterday.
Yeah.
That's his party, like him and everyone else.
Yeah. Adam Sandler's all about silliness, and I'm quite immature. I've got still, a bit silliness in me. Number one thing women say, actually, you're so mature. I'm just there like cracking a joke and winding them up, and I can't take it. But yeah, Adam Sandler, all about silliness, making jokes and laughing, and I just loved all of his films growing up. Adam Sandler's a legend, and it's always feel good as well at the end, right? Like, you don't want to watch a film and at the end you're just like a bit depressed by it, because it's like,
if you watch some dramas and stuff, that's what I don't understand. What's the point to watch like horror films and stuff?
I don't watch no scary movies.
Yeah, I used to not, but I start getting to scary movies again, and I start understanding that actually it's the art is of that building that adrenaline and like that surprise thing. That is an art. But I was very traumatized as a kid. Like, my dad allowed me to watch horror films when I was like 7, 8 years old, and I literally got traumatized. It was bad. I would walk home when it's already getting dark, like very early. It gets dark in the winter in Latvia, and I would hear a little noise or something. I would just run. I would just run home for my life.
Yeah, I had an experience like that.
That's like weird. And I remember there was one horror film where this demon grabs little kids by their feet when they sit on the bed and just pulls them under the bed. I could not sit on the edge of the bed for ages. I'm not kidding you. Now I'm finally like, yesterday I started sitting.
You did,
Okay. But also Adam Sandler, I just saw his serious movie where he plays the scout, where he goes to find these basketball players. Did you see that one?
Yeah, most recent one.
Yeah. I actually rewatched it again.
But it's a feel-good film, right? Like,
yeah, it is.
That's his vibe.
It's very feel-good,
stuff that kind of inspires, I think.
But it was weird to see him so old. He was portrayed so old. He was like, back in the days when I used to play the ball.
Yeah.
It was cool. It was a very cool relationship with that Spanish basketball player and all that. It was pretty cool. And how he was, he thought that team is paying for his hotel, so he clean out the fridge and watch porn and all that stuff.
The basketball player shit.
Yeah. So that's movies, and let's get to people. What do we have from people? Well, Adam Sandler is obviously one of them. So Arnie, Adam Sandler, and David Goggins. Oh man, let's go with the Arnie, man. Let's go with Arnie.
Yeah, I mean, I read Arnie's autobiography as well, right? And obviously he's in the movies growing up as a kid. And what do you want to know?
Well, yeah, I mean, his biography, the Total Recall, yeah. I think one of the coolest the stories was how he just started getting into bodybuilding, and this in Germany, that he had this photographer who would like hire him and everything, but this photographer made a move on him during the night or something like that, and Arnie just like picking up his underpants and everything was running away from there because this guy was like trying to
You know, there's a lot of that in the fitness industry as well. Like,
your example.
You know, there's a lot of photographers that will offer to shoot you, but really just want to shoot you for their pleasure. And when you're starting out in the fitness industry, you have to strike the right balance, right? Because some of them actually have good photos. And if you don't have the cash for, you know, a photographer, which can be expensive, then you have to kind of like
put it out.
You have to get the photo, and then you have to run out with your pants still, you know, on, and make sure you get those edits. Make sure you get the edits still as well.
Oh God!
It's funny because you see a lot of influencers who have kind of like maybe made it now and have their own like personal photographer, but then like you've also see back in the day where they shot with some of the, you know, the guys who are doing the free shoots, you know.
Shit.
And it's like, okay, everybody's gone through that building up process of getting some images in that sense, and then that's probably maybe one of the more negative sides of the fitness or any show industry, right? You've got some people who have who are just doing it for that intent.
And also try to have that, try to make a move and all that stuff.
But yeah, Arnie's stuff, man, like, you know, one thing that always stood out for me in Arnie's autobiography, and it maybe even links to David Goggins' attitude as well, is when he had to have heart surgery, he didn't like tell people. He didn't tell anyone he had to have heart surgery. You know, and he didn't even talk about it or anything. He just scheduled it in like a haircut. You know, okay, this is when my heart surgery is going to be. I'm going to go and I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to go straight back to, you know, where I was, you know, and then be back on set. And he didn't let it become a thing. He almost kind of like pushed it out of the reality of his head, because, and that goes down to things like, take a sport like high jump or something, right? Like if you think you're going to make the jump, you'll make the jump. If you show any kind of like hesitation on the jump, then you won't make it, and you knock the thing off, right? Like,
right.
It's about like in gymnastics when you go to do double backflip. You know, if halfway through the flip you think, am I going to make this? Then no, you don't make it. And
or you change your mind.
Or you change your mind about the flip halfway through the flip, then you land on your head. You know?
I'm actually very surprised that you're using this euphemism or this comparison.
I used to do it on inline skates, right? So I used to do the flips on the ramp. You... I remember at one point after I tried to come back after an injury, I did lose that mental ability, the block to then do it. And so, you know, having heart surgery, you could let that affect you in such a way. I'm having heart surgery. I better take a step back from doing any movies for some time. Better let myself heal. And if you told all the people around you, your friends and family, they'll probably say things to you like, you should be resting. You should be resting. And that'll infect your head, right? So it's all about what you believe and, you know, your commitment to what you're doing. Your body and your mind and your spirit will find a way if you believe. And so he didn't let influences come in on that which was happening. He didn't let it take over his psyche. He just went and had heart surgery and then cracked back on over what he was doing. But
the crazy thing is, like, if I feel if I would have that situation, I would do exactly the same thing. Like I broke this wrist doing this thing on snowboard, like this flip, and I landed and I smacked all my wrist, which is destroyed, and none of my family found out. I was like 2 weeks in a hospital, and just like, you know, and then I remember like 3 years later, I said to my mom, the time when I was in hospital with my broken wrist, she's like, what broken wrist? What are you talking about? But like, because I feel, and this is obviously, it's very, people are very different. I feel, what's the point to burden other people with my shit? You know, it could be my psychological traumas as a kid, whatever. But the idea is that it's not going to make any difference. If I would tell you that, yeah, I broke this wrist and I'm now in the hospital, like, and you'd be like, oh, poor baby, you know, try to heal up faster. That's not going to make any fucking difference.
It goes into one of the points in the book of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? Which is like victim mentality. You know, I think a lot of people out there are stuck in victim mentality, right?
Yeah.
That's a disease, victim mentality.
Oh,
like, that's like, yeah, you know, a mad disease. And
always blaming someone else. It's not my fault. It's someone else's fault.
You know,
and then it feels sorry for me. And then it happens like that. That's how I look at it. If I allow someone to feel sorry for me, they're wasting their time. They're wasting my time. It's a different story if I know that someone can help me. If I tell you, Dave, I'm opening this business, right? I need to get this supplier. He's not, you know, responding me. And I know that you kind of could know someone about that. Of course I will ask you. So you can help me to solve the problem. Yeah. But if a problem, whatever already happened, there's nothing you can do about it, then what's the point?
No need to
but
share
then people,
it, right?
people, some like, they need to share that. Oh, I'm in pain. Well, what the fuck you want me to do about it?
Yeah, and normally it goes down to when they don't have the, you know, the balls to go and do what needs to be done to fix it.
Yeah.
Right? You know, they're running away from, you know, the fix. So, yeah, that's definitely a bridge that separates a lot of people that go far and are dynamic and can change and adapt versus those who, you know, maybe don't. And I feel it's something that you can teach, but then it's also something that's just inherently a part of a person, I find. It's just part of their character.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like some clients as well. Some clients have, you know, victim mentality in the, you know, I can't change, you know.
It's just me. That's the way I am.
You know, my wife wants to eat this, so, you know, I have to eat this with her, you know.
But you see, crazy is that I can actually relate to sometimes when I say that I can't change it when it comes question to my big mouth. Because very often there's a situation where I should just be shut up and not saying anything. And I'm, with my personality, I think I'm going to make it funny, and I open my mouth. And then very quickly I realized I fucked it up. But in the same time, I was like, that is so my nature. I so want to get in there and say something and whatever. And like, since I was a little kid, I've been in trouble so many times just because I couldn't keep my mouth shut. but I understand that. I accept it. That's why I have podcasts now.
Yeah, now you get to keep your mouth open.
as much as I can.
Like, yeah.
So we had Arnie, Adam Sandler. So Adam Sandler we kind of already touched upon on the movies. Like, did you follow much of his stand-up career?
No.
Not really, right? I haven't seen his stand-up much either, but he used to be like Superman in stand-up. Yeah, but that was a while ago, I'm guessing.
Yeah, he had a book on, or a film on it as well.
Where he's playing like, he's already big stand-up comedian.
And there's somebody coming through who's writing all his lines for him.
Yeah, and he was about to die as well. And then it was Jonah Hill was playing the writer guy who's going to be working for him, and then they become pals and stuff. Yeah, that's pretty cool film.
That's a good film.
Yeah. That's Adam Sandler was just playing this like cocky asshole and like I'm this big.
Yeah, when I list Adam Sandler as a person who's inspired me, and it goes with Arnie as well, right? And it's not necessarily one thing that they did, but it's the energy that their productions and what they've produced and the image and the brand that they've created has given me, right? Like I go to Adam Sandler for laughs and silliness and to keep a bit of my childish vibe going and whatnot. And I go to Arnie for,
the pump.
Yeah. So Arnie gives you inspiration to go out and, get the pump and get jacked and train hard because, you're going to be, stacked like that and whatnot. When the reality is you only, get a brand and image like that if you work for that. The pump alone isn't going to get you that.
But Arnie is also so funny, man.
Yeah,
he's cracking jokes all the time.
Yeah.
How many lines of what he said, they become epic. You know?
Yeah, showman, proper showman.
Like, it's like, you need to cool down. It's not a tumor. That's actually one of my favorite ones. Like, I'll be back. That's like so old, but the idea when this kid is like, is that a tumor? It's not a tumor. Do you remember that one?
No.
That one is from Kindergarten Cop.
Oh, I never.
When
really
he was
got
with these
into
kids,
that,
and he was just kind of trying to interact with these kids, doesn't know what the fuck's going on, and then these kids are asking all these stupid questions. And then this one kid said, like, was that a tumor? He's like, it's not a tumor. It just kind of stuck to me. Or get to the chopper, obviously. Also, like, if you're such a huge fan of Adam Sandler, what about the Hotel Transylvania? Don't tell me you haven't seen it.
No.
It's a cartoon. It has like you need to watch it. And that's Adam Sandler is playing the vampire who says the blah, blah, blah.
I'll be honest, some of Adam Sandler's films I've found really bad. Like, some of them, he either nails it, he either absolutely nails it, or he absolutely tits it up. There's no like middle ground. And like where he had been reeling out some with Netflix in partnership, and the production, budget's obviously lower than Hollywood. Some of them were just really bad.
I don't know. You need to check it out. The Hotel Transylvania. I want to see you, because the funny thing, like the same crew what he uses for the movies like Grown Ups. And he tends to work with the same actors.
He's got his guys, man. That's what makes it
all
funny.
of the same guys in that Transylvania, Hotel Transylvania, all of them.
And all the same jokes and gags, like Rob Schneider.
Yeah. That they're amazing. And like I like on the Grown Ups, that guy who broke his both arms, he was doing this at the end. It's like, how's the goal? Yeah. Let's do the wave.
That guy, man, yeah. It's because the jokes.
I'm an animal.
The jokes are predictable. You know what you're gonna get. You
but
know
it's
what time
silly.
to joke, but every time they just get you.
They're so good.
Yeah.
That was the other good film where he was playing the firefighter, and then they need to play the gay couple.
Yeah.
With that, what's his name? That bigger
I know
guy.
who you mean.
Yeah. He has like a big sitcom and stuff, and apparently he's not very nice to his fans. Oh, that's what I hear. Okay, and then David Goggins. David Goggins, did you read his book?
Yeah, I listened to it in also with.
Yeah, same thing. What's it called? Never Give Up or something?
Can't Hurt Me.
Can't Hurt Me. Here
Can't
you
Hurt
go.
Me.
Good lad.
Yeah, and it just goes back to inspiration, right? Like, your situation is whatever you make of it. Literally speaking, like the man was whipped as a child and forced to work, and really didn't have a good start, but he just worked hard and put his foot down, didn't take no for an answer. Just resilience, pure resilience in the face of just absolute pain.
Yeah.
Like, what is pain anyway? Like it's just a feeling, right? And we're in control of our feelings, so you just control it.
Dude, that's such a good point. That's what was mentioned in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where they were talking about this guy who was in Germany, in that this Jewish guy was into one of these camps, so about to be killed. And then they had the control of their body, but one control they didn't have was of his thoughts. And then he says, this is the only thing they can't take away from me.
Yeah. Didn't he say something nice to the God every day or something? Something
like that. But there was the idea that, they can take away my body, all that freedom, whatever, what they think, but I know deep inside me who I am and what I represent and how it works. And that is, that's extreme, right? But in Goggins' case, it wasn't far away to seeing your mom being beaten up by this asshole father, and like you can't do anything, and crazy like how, the Crews, what's his first name? The big muscly guy.
Terry
Crews, yeah. And Terry Crews like had a very similar childhood as well. Yeah, his father was abusing his mom, like beating up, and he's like, one day I'm gonna grow up, I'm gonna fucking destroy you. But that day when he grew up and he was the muscles everywhere, he did not destroy him. He did not beat him up, because he said the biggest kind of like the sign of you being weak is to go and show that and to go and beat someone up and who you know you can beat up. And that is true. And I think in many cases, someone who is abusive and the bullies, when you go from the very beginning, when the kids are bullying other kids, it's because they have their own issues. You know, because they've been beaten up by their parents, they've been abused by their older siblings or whatever that is. And this is the crazy how we operate as a human being, you know,
cycles go round.
Yeah, and who's hurting? The one who hurts others is hurting, right? It's But David's crazy story was about him getting into forces because he was like overweight with his girlfriend doing this bullshit job, whatever. And then he decided he's going to go to military, whatever. And like it took him for ages to lose the weight and do all the running.
And doing those things where they call it Hell Week. And he did person who's done like 3 Hell Weeks. And just a lot of like, he does his videos on Instagram, right, where he'll be like running, just casually running while talking. And he'll say some shit like, I wasn't ready. There's no time that I was ever gonna be ready. What is ready? But the time came and I just did it. And I'd done it. And you know what? If I waited until I was ready, I'll have never been ready.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah. I think one of my favorite things from Goggins is like that he would put his running shoes down and like would stare at them for like 30 minutes and then like, okay, I need to go to get ready. Okay, dude, this is amazing. We've done all of this cool stuff. We rumbled up about 3 hours. The last thing what I want to ask you, I call it the bombs of wisdom. So I want you to give your best bombs of wisdom for younger version of you. Let's say like maybe when you were 10 years old, 15 years old. And also these bombs of wisdom would go towards someone who wants to pursue what you are doing and how you changed your life and what you've been done so far. So go for it.
So 10 or 15-year-old me. Oh, jeez.
Now when you're 2 months, you could do better in that birth. You were really shitty with the Labor Day.
So, yeah, I mean, me at that age was just figuring things out, you know. I'd say to that version of me too, at that age you're really kind of shaping stuff, right? That's when you're doing some sports, that's when you're moving towards GCSEs and things like that. And I mean, at that age, I had even started a side hustle. I called it Bissell Busters. I was selling DVDs and CDs in school.
Oh, but then you were business minded.
Yeah. Shit. So I was even doing that then. Like, mate, I used to release a monthly mixtape. You know, I called it Bissell's Mix. It got up to like volume 5. I'd sell like 30 copies each time.
Bissell's Mix. That's what's up. Yeah.
But you know, there at that age, you're just kind of playing with your own. You're playing, right? You're figuring things out.
I think probably that question should be more about like what you could suggest for yourself in certain age when you were in crossroads. Because all of us, we have this moment in our lives. Like I, for example, when I was like figuring out after high school, what the fuck am I gonna do? Or like after like I did my bachelor's, like you have these crossroads, like, and it feels like would be great to have that mentor or some kind of a push from some side and saying, you know what, Renars, or you know what, Dave, like do this, and you know. So do you think you would have that clear vision of that point?
There's one big crossroad I had, right, when I moved from. I decided to take a break from entrepreneurship, right, to do, say, personal training for a bit. I would maybe look back at that crossroad. I think I needed that break, you know, like all the way up through my early 20s where I was picking, you know, the fast lane, per se. I watched my friends buy the nice cars, you know, buy the houses, get the stable assets and do the stuff where they went straight into the corporates. And, you know, I needed to get personally for myself some kind of cash flow in. But then maybe I'd give myself some advice at that crossroad to stick it out, mate. You know, it's only going to get a bit more painful, but one more year of pushing and you could get over that boundary, right? Like, the whole point of the Millionaire Fast Lane is to reach a point where you sell the asset. Never got to that point, right? I never sold that asset. I didn't get it to there. But maybe if I had stuck it out, grinded a while longer, I could have got over that crossroad, sold that asset, and now be, pivoting in multiple businesses, right?
And a lot of us on that age just didn't know that. A lot of us, we didn't have that one who would tell us, I mean,
and I pushed it hard. Like, I got to an age mid to kind of late 20s where I'm learning all the time, failing, making some money in things, but losing loads of money. A lot of my friends, the concepts of losing money, just on making a wrong business move, they probably wouldn't have even felt. The only time they lose money is like when they go to Ibiza, like, because they're spending it, planned ways. But so I learned a hell of a lot. But if I had stuck it out and pushed harder, taken bigger losses and other hits, then maybe I'd be a step ahead of where I am now. But it's hard to say that, right? Because one of the only reasons that I feel ready to go back in that step is because I took that time to get that money in and tick off a lot of things that as an individual I needed to tick off, at those points in life, and I needed cash to do it. But yeah, that's a crossroad point that I'd encourage any of the viewers, right? Like, if they're at that level to, just think properly, at those points. Yeah, because there's no right or wrong.
Exactly. And also, like, really push towards, like, what is important for you.
Exactly, what's important for you.
Nice one, man. Listen, this is fucking awesome. Thank you so much, my dude. And 3 hours. Bush. That's how we roll. Little dance. And now little dance. Come on. Oh, shit. All
right, I got plumbing to do, man.
Blah, blah, blah. Renars Podcast.